Chapter 3988. Long Qin was stunned. She turned to look at Yun Xiang and asked, "Didn't Qin Feiyang and the others tell you about my ability?" "What ability?" These words left Yun Xiang scratching his head in confusion. "They didn't even tell you about this kind of thing. How much do they look down on me?" Long Qin snorted coldly. Yun Xiang was completely dumbfounded. What kind of ability was that? "You will know in the future." Long Qin whispered and looked up at Ryuko and the others. Her dark eyes were faintly glowing. If one didn't look carefully, it would be difficult to notice. For example, at this moment Ryuko and the others on the other side didn't notice at all. The Sky Prides who came to the Sky Cloud realm for the first time all looked at Long Qin curiously. "This woman seems to be very powerful." A young man from the God clan said. "She is Long Qin." Jiang Chun said secretly. "It's her." Knowing Long Qin's identity, the new Sky Pride's pupils couldn't help but shrink slightly. "I really can't figure it out. How can a place like the Sky Cloud realm cultivate such an outstanding woman?" "Ryuko Goddess, does the Sky Cloud realm have the inheritance of the ultimate profound?" Someone was suspicious. "Finally, there is a person with better vision." Long Qin laughed secretly. Hearing that she was outstanding, she felt very comfortable. Even the epitome of the laws can be regarded as a treasure. Will there be the inheritance of the ultimate profound in a place like this? Ryuko sneered secretly. In that case, Long Qin's ultimate profundity was comprehended by herself? This is too amazing. Incredible. Several Sky Prides muttered secretly. When Ryuko heard this, his heart skipped a beat. He looked at Long Qin from a distance and said quietly, "Do you have any repulsion towards her?" Repulsion? Long Qin was slightly taken aback. What did this mean? "No." 5 of them said secretly. "Then it seems that she is not the owner of the strongest battle soul." Ryuko was a little disappointed. Possessor of the strongest fighting soul? Long Qin frowned slightly. Suddenly, her gaze trembled slightly. Repulsion, possessor of the strongest fighting soul. Could it be that the 5 people who were secretly talking to Ryuko all possessed the strongest fighting soul? Immediately, Long Qin realized that this was an extremely important clue. He turned to look at Yun Xiang and said, "Send me back to the dragon nest." "All right." Yun Xiang nodded. He had just arrived and now he wanted to leave? It was a little strange. However, he didn't ask any more questions. He opened a space-time tunnel and Long Qin immediately walked in. Dragon Lair. Sensing Long Qin's presence outside the courtyard, Long Chun immediately opened his eyes and walked out of the room. Looking at Long Qin standing outside the door, he smiled and said, "Why are you back so soon? There must be some gains." Long Qin smiled proudly. "You got something just like that." Long Chun was dumbfounded. This efficiency was too fast. Long Qin turned and walked to the edge of the cliff. He looked down at a certain place in the mountains and asked, "Are Frenzy and White-Eyed Wolf both in seclusion?" "Yes." Long Chun followed to Long Qin's side and asked suspiciously, "Is there something that you can't let them know?" "I'm indeed thinking about this. You should know that possessors of the strongest fighting soul are basically people around Qin Feiyang." Long Qin transmitted his voice. "I know this." Long Chun nodded and asked doubtfully, "But does this have anything to do with the friendly competition?" "Of course it has something to do with it." Long Qin sneered and whispered, "If I'm not wrong, among those supreme talents who came this time, there are 5 possessors of the strongest fighting soul." "What?" Long Chun looked at Long Qin in shock. Long Qin immediately told Long Chun what he had heard without missing a word. Long Chun listened and pondered for a moment. Then he smiled and said, "Since they mentioned the word repelling, it seems to be true. So I came back to tell you immediately. Do you think the appearance of these 5 people is directly related to this friendly competition?" Long Qin frowned. Long Chun lowered his head and looked at the mountains with a thoughtful look. Seeing this, Long Qin did not disturb him. After a long time, Long Chun smiled and shook his head. These people really did put a lot of thought into this. "What do you mean?" Long Qin immediately asked. "I can roughly guess what they are going to do. They must grab the other half of the strongest fighting soul to fully evolve it. Only a complete strongest fighting soul can exert its incredible power. The friendly competition held by Ryuko and Zhang Yunshuang should be to lure Mu Tianyang and the others out." Long Chun smiled and said, in other words, they have the same plan as Mu Tianyang and the others. Long Qin was surprised and doubtful. Yes, Mu Tianyang and the others want to use this friendly competition to see if they can find their enemies and evolve their fighting souls. The Divine Kingdom is the same. I didn't understand why they would offer such a generous reward for a friendly competition. So this is their purpose. Long Chun shook his head. They were really willing to pay a high price. You can't trap a wolf without risking your child. Who would be able to resist such a reward? But it turned out that Mu Tianyang and the others were smarter. They didn't directly show up. Long Qin said with a smile. Long Chun was stunned and said with a smile, Qiner, from what you said, it seems that you are looking down on the people of the Divine Kingdom. You can't blame me for looking down on them. They are stupid. Long Qin snorted coldly. Wrong. The people of the Divine Kingdom are not stupid. It's just that they are unlucky to meet you. Long Chun shook his head. Hey! Hearing this praise, Long Qin seemed to have eaten a happy fruit and asked, then should I tell Frenzy and the others about this? This matter. Long Chun looked at the mountains below and pondered for a moment and said with a smile, let me think about it. You still have to work hard and continue to go to the battlefield to keep an eye on them. Find out what fighting souls they have. After that, he opened another space-time passage. Okay. Long Qin nodded and stepped into the passage and quickly disappeared. It looks calm on the surface, but there is a hidden killing intent. This friendly competition is really interesting. However, he could also understand Ryuko and Jiang Yunshuang's approach. Now facing Qin Feiyang's Eye of Heaven and the Devil Ancestor's Eye of Despair, the pressure on the younger generation of the Divine Kingdom was increasing. Moreover, his fighting soul, Frenzy's fighting soul, and White-Eyed Wolf's fighting soul could also threaten the Divine Kingdom. So now, the 5 people of the Divine Kingdom must find their enemies as soon as possible, including Jiang Yunshuang. If Jiang Yunshuang could snatch the Mermaid Princess's Eye of Life, for her, there would be an earth-shaking change in an instant. In short, if the younger generation of the Divine Kingdom wanted to break the current passive situation, they must snatch the fighting souls of the Mermaid Princess and the others. At this moment, Long Chun was a little conflicted. The owners of these fighting souls were definitely good news for the Sky Cloud realm, because as long as the fighting souls of the Mermaid Princess and the others evolved, they would undoubtedly be more confident in dealing with the Divine Kingdom in the future. But these people had a deep relationship with Qin Feiyang. If he really helped them, they would definitely become his great enemy in the future. Wait! But suddenly, Mu Tianyang's eyes flashed. Among these people there were also a few uncertain factors. As long as he could make good use of this, if he really fell out with Qin Feiyang, they would definitely become his trump card. Son of God! Suddenly, a clear voice rang out. A woman in a silver-white dress broke through the air like lightning and landed in front of Long Chun. This woman was the little princess of the dragons. Linglong, why are you here? Also, don't call me Son of God anymore, just call me Long Chun. Long Chun smiled slightly. How would I dare to call you by your name? Although her tone was very respectful, Linglong's expression was neither servile nor overbearing. Isn't a name used to be called? Long Chun shook his head and laughed, asking, do you need something from me? Yes. Linglong nodded, looking expectantly at Long Chun, and said, what do you think about the matter I told you last time? When Long Chun heard this, his face suddenly sank and asked, do you really want to do this? I have no choice. If I don't take action, they will find me sooner or later. So it's better to take the initiative. When this sentence was said, the woman seemed to have changed in an instant, and her eyes were sharper than a blade. Long Chun looked at Linglong, took a deep breath and sighed. This is really not a trivial matter, because whether it succeeds or fails, you will face their anger. I have long been prepared. Linglong smiled. You little girl. Long Chun looked helpless, shaking his head and said, this matter can't be rushed, and don't make it difficult for me. How about this? Let's see how the situation develops in the future. If it really comes to that point, I will help you. Then how long do I have to wait? And if the final situation is like this, then I will never be able to complete it, right? Linglong frowned. If it can really be like this, then wouldn't it be a very perfect ending? Linglong, I know you are not satisfied with the status quo, and want to be like us. But in fact, we are not happy. Although it seems that we are fighting with the heavenly talents of the divine kingdom, at the same time we are facing a lot of pressure. To be honest, I am a little envious of you. You are carefree, and even if the sky falls, there is someone tall to hold it up. So you really don't have to force it. Long Chun patiently explained. You are under pressure, but so am I. If you don't help me, then I will think of a way by myself. The worst that can happen is death. Linglong clenched her hands, and her eyes were full of determination. Absolutely not. Do you know why I forbade you from leaving the dragon nest after knowing about your fighting soul? I am protecting you. I did not even tell my biological sister and mother about your fighting soul, so I hope you can understand my painstaking efforts. If you really insist on doing this, then I can only imprison you in my space divine item in the future. Long Chen's attitude was also very firm. When Linglong heard this, she was immediately unhappy. Chapter 3989. You're still not convinced? Actually, I've been patient enough with you. I repeatedly warned you to not come in contact with Qin Feiyong and the others. Yet what did you do? Not long after they entered the Black Tortoise realm, you took the initiative to look for them. Long Chen's eyes were slightly cold. How do you know? Linglong was flustered. I also know that you cooperated with Qin Feiyong to get rid of your brother. It was also you who told Qin Feiyong about the Eye of Heaven. Back then, the place where you met was in the Western continent. These words caused Linglong to panic to the extreme. She really couldn't figure out why Long Chen knew so much. It was as if he saw it with his own eyes. Originally, your brother was very useful to me. But because of you, he lost the Eye of Heaven. But I don't blame you for this. And after all, this is a fair battle between your big brother and Qin Feiyong. As the saying goes, those who bet must accept their loss. When you contacted Qin Feiyong, I didn't ask. Because I believe that you know what to do. But now, you've come to find me and urgently want me to help you. This is very irrational and immature behavior. Long Chen's face became colder. One had to know. After interacting with Frenzy and the others for so many years, his face had never changed. But now, it was obvious that his anger was erupting. Exquisite lowered her head, her body faintly trembling. Normally, Long Chen gave people a feeling that he was easy to get along with. But at this moment, Exquisite felt a great pressure from Long Chen, and her soul couldn't help but tremble. Do you know what the current situation is? Long Chen looked at her deeply, raised his head and looked in the direction of the land of buried gods, and whispered, the divine kingdom's strength is obvious to all. To deal with the divine kingdom, we have to join forces with Qin Feiyong to have a chance of winning. I know. Linglong nodded. Then, do you know what will happen once the Sky Cloud realm falls? Long Chen asked. Linglong was silent. Let me tell you. If the Sky Cloud realm falls, not only the creatures of the Sky Cloud realm, but all the continents in the lower realm will suffer a catastrophe. Billions upon billions of living beings will welcome the end of the world. Long Chen retracted his gaze and looked at Linglong. If such a disaster happened because of you, then you will be a sinner for all eternity. Can you bear this sin? Linglong trembled uncontrollably, her face deathly pale. So now our Sky Cloud realm cannot have internal strife, especially Qin Feiyong and the others. We must maintain our current relationship. As for your matter, if you're willing to wait, then wait until the divine kingdom retreats. If you're not willing to wait, then give up. Long Chen said. Give up. Linglong's body and mind trembled. She raised her head and looked at Long Chen. Not bad. You only have these two choices. If I find out that you went to Qin Feiyong again, I will kill you directly. His words were very calm, but they were full of great deterrence. Linglong did not dare to have any objections. She lowered her head again, her face incomparably painful. Long Chen saw this and couldn't bear it. He stretched out his hand and straightened out the messy hair on her forehead. His expression eased a lot. He smiled and said, in fact, you don't need a war soul. You can still become a heaven's pride in the Sky Cloud realm. Because your talent is better than all the princes and princesses. This was not false at all. Whether it was the first prince of the dragons or the second princess of the dragons, they were all afraid of this little princess. And you are very smart. You also know how to endure. I really don't want to see you embark on a path of no return. How about this? You go to my mother. She still has the inheritance of the ultimate profound. You tell her that I asked you to go, and she will arrange it for you. Long Chun smiled slightly. Ling Long's eyes suddenly trembled. She hurriedly looked up at Long Chun. Was this real? Was this a dream? Go. Long Chun patted Ling Long's head. There was a trace of affection on his face. It was like the love of a brother to his sister. Thank you. Ling Long bowed. After a moment of hesitation she asked, Then the grudge between me and my brother, I will not interfere in the grudge between you two, but it must be fair. Long Chun smiled. Understood. Ling Long nodded. The meaning of these words was quite obvious. He did not allow her to borrow Qin Feiyang's hand. If she wanted to take revenge, she would have to go and have a fair fight with the first prince of the dragons. Also, Qin my mother, and I will leave the dragons sooner or later. You must not let me down. Long Chun turned around, looked at the horizon and said with a smile. Ling Long had just turned around and was about to leave. When she heard these words, her body suddenly shook. She slowly turned around and looked at Long Chun's back. But Long Chun did not turn around. He did not say anything more. Ling Long took a deep breath, bowed and said, I will try my best. Then, without waiting for Long Chun's response, she turned around and flew away. Others may not understand, but she understood the hidden message in Long Chun's words. He wanted her to be the future Dragon King, to lead all the dragons. Time passed day by day. The friendly competition was in full swing. Anyone with the slightest bit of courage would have already tried it. However, although there were countless people from the Sky Cloud field participating, the winning rate was too small. Apart from the battle with the demon ancestor, who won a complete victory, the people after were almost completely defeated. The only few times they won, they relied on the secluded old antiques of the various races. Even these old antiques were lucky to win because they challenged the humans of the Divine Kingdom. As for the God race, apart from Pei Tianhong and Wang Changyuan, no one dared to challenge them. Others were scared out of their wits when they saw the people of the God race. But Pei Tianhong, Wang Changyuan, and the others were specifically watching the people of the God race. With their strength, they were definitely not the opponents of the God race. But they were not afraid. After a crushing defeat, they rested for 2 days and continued to challenge. Anyway, the other party did not dare to take their lives. They might as well use these people to train themselves. Therefore, in every battle, they used all their strength and did not leave any leeway for themselves. Sometimes, even if they fell down and could not stand up, they still persevered. Such perseverance and fighting spirit, even the great geniuses of the Divine Kingdom could not help but look at them in a new light. They even investigated the situation of Pei Tianhong and the others. After some investigation, it turned out that these people were Qin Feiyang's subordinates. No wonder they had such courage. Where there was effort, there was gain. In battle after battle, Wang Changyuan and the 9 commanders broke through successively and comprehended the ultimate profundity of an ordinary law. Even though it wasn't the ultimate profundity of a strongest law, they were already very satisfied. Because when they were in the Western continent, they did not even dare to imagine that they would be able to comprehend an ultimate profundity in this life. Just like that, 10 years. An entire 10 years passed. The people of the Divine Kingdom were no longer unfamiliar to them. Even if they encountered the people of the Divine Kingdom in the 4 continents, they would not be nervous at all and would even speak a few words sometimes. Because they were used to it. On this day, Ocean of Cloud City, Tianyue Pavilion. Within a private room, over a dozen people sat around a table, and all of them were familiar faces. It was Pei Tianhong, Wang Changyuan, the other commanders, and the Demon Ancestors group. Mu Qing looked at Pei Tianhong and the others and shook his head. All of you have really been influenced by Qin Feiyang. You're all so desperate. You already know. Pei Tianhong smiled. Right now, everyone in the Sky Cloud realm is talking about all of you. It's difficult not to know. Moreover, all of you should go and take a look for yourselves. Who doesn't say that all of you are desperate? Even the God race of the Divine Kingdom is worried when they see all of you. Do you know why they are worried? Endless challenges, but they can't kill all of you. It's hard to bear. Mu Qing shook his head. He really felt pity for the god race. They were completely treated as sparring partners by these people. Pei Tianhong and the others didn't know whether to laugh or cry when they heard this. Dong Zhengyang smiled. But all of you are quite formidable. You've all broken through in battle. Qin Feiyong has gained over a dozen more generals under his command. What do you mean by that? We are the young master's generals. The second commander spoke proudly. You're really arrogant. In the current situation, without an ultimate profundity, what can we do? Even if we comprehend the ultimate profundity of an ordinary law, it doesn't mean much. The most important thing is the ultimate profundity of a strongest law. So not only you, the few of us have to work hard too. Otherwise, we will be thrown to the horizon by Qin Feiyong sooner or later. Mu Qing sighed. Thinking back to when he was in the Great Qin and Forgotten Continent, he was similar to Qin Feiyong. But now, one was the sky, the other was the earth. They were not on the same level at all. They were both possessors of the strongest battle soul. Why was the difference so big? Actually, we still have to go out more to gain experience. For example, when the Sky Bell Divine Treasure opened, we should have gone to gain experience. Mu Tianyang shook his head as he drank his tea, feeling rather regretful. If he knew that the Sky Bell Divine Treasure had so many heaven-defying opportunities, he would have gone no matter what. If you guys want to go, the young master might not agree. After all, you guys are going to drag him down. Wang Changyuan chuckled. The few of them weren't angry. Even Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing weren't angry at all, but they rolled their eyes at Wang Changyuan. Have you guys gained anything in the past 10 years? Pei Tianhong asked. No. We've been to almost all the big and small towns on the 4 continents. Dong Zhengyang sighed helplessly. Apart from the towns, aren't there still many small villages? Pei Tianhong said. You're underestimating the strongest battle soul too much. Those who possess the strongest battle soul all have extraordinary talent. How can they stay in a small village forever? Apart from the Divine Kingdom, there are only 3 major races left. We want to find time to visit the 3 major races. But, at this point, Dong Zhengyang frowned, looking somewhat worried. Are you worried that the 3 major races won't let you guys go? Pei Tianhong asked. Dong Zhengyang nodded. Pei Tianhong pondered for a while and analyzed. The Feng people shouldn't have any objections. As for the Kirin race, let's inform Qi Xiaoyun in advance. With his relationship with the young master, it shouldn't be a big problem. The only difficult thing to deal with is the dragons. That's what we think too. The dragons are now under the control of Long Zun and Long Chun. Long Chun is still fine, but Long Zun and Long Qin, this pair of mother and daughter, won't be easy to get along with. Dong Zhengyang smiled bitterly. Actually, we don't have to go personally. Fire Dance, Qi Xiaoyun, Long Chun is from the 3 major races. They definitely know if anyone in the race has awakened the strongest battle soul. Can't we just ask them directly? Wang Changyuan looked at everyone and said, No. Fire Dance can be trusted now. But Long Chun and Qi Xiaoyun, to be honest, I don't trust them at all. What if they're hiding something? Won't we just brush past each other? Brushing past each other is a small matter. The most terrifying thing is that Long Chun already knows about our battle souls. What if he's plotting against us behind our backs? So, we have to find an opportunity to confirm it personally. Mu Qing shook his head. He didn't know much about Qi Xiaoyun. But if Long Chun was really plotting against them behind their backs, the consequences would be unimaginable. Pei Tianhong pondered for a while and looked at them. If you insist on going, then we can only ask Feng Zi and Brother Wolf for help. Mu Qing frowned and asked, Is there no other way? He really didn't want to ask Feng Zi and White-Eyed Wolf for help. There really isn't. If you go in your own name, let alone the dragons, even the Feng people might not give you any face. Pei Tianhong chuckled. Chapter 3990. In the current Tianyun realm, if you don't rely on the young master and the others, even if you have the strongest battle soul, it is useless. Blood Ancestor is still okay. The Eye of Despair has evolved. But for Mu Tianyang and the other 2, what use can the semi-finished strongest battle soul be? Any reclusive old antique from the 3 major clans is enough to make them suffer. Sigh. Mu Qing sighed deeply. Although he was a little unwilling, he could only do so. Pei Tianhong immediately sent a message to Madman. However, after waiting for a while, Madman didn't reply. He then sent a message to the white-eyed wolf. Buzz. The response this time was very quick. The image of the white-eyed wolf appeared. What is it? The white-eyed wolf looked at Pei Tianhong suspiciously. Pei Tianhong briefly explained the situation. The white-eyed wolf froze for a moment. The corner of his mouth pursed into a playful smile. Let them beg me, then I will help them. Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang's faces instantly darkened. Dong Zhongyang also had a helpless expression. Pei Tianhong simply turned the sound transmission godstone and faced Mu Tianyang and the other two. Is it so difficult for you to lower your head and beg me? The white-eyed wolf looked at the three of them in ridicule. If you want to help, then help. If not, then forget it. Mu Qing snorted. You have personality, I like it. Then you guys have to think of a way yourselves. After the white-eyed wolf finished speaking, he turned off the sound transmission godstone. This bastard. Mu Qing was stunned. What kind of attitude was this? I know you are very powerful now, but you don't have to be so arrogant. After knowing each other for so long, you still don't understand the character of this wolf cub? A typical example of being amenable to coaxing but not coercion. The demon ancestor looked at Mu Qing helplessly. After so many years, this arrogant character should be put away. If you don't want to help, then don't help. I don't believe that if we leave them, we can't handle this matter. Mu Qing snorted coldly. Fine. You have the ability, you go. Anyway, I won't go and ask for trouble. The demon ancestor said indifferently. You're not going either? Mu Qing was stunned. He was counting on the fiend ancestor. Because the demon alpha's eye of despair had already evolved, the three races would definitely give the demon alpha some face. Mu Tianyang glanced at the demon ancestor and frowned. You are helping the white-eyed wolf to bully us. I didn't bully you. I just want you to personally experience the status of the white-eyed wolf and the others in the sky cloud realm. I'll explain it to you like this. If you leave them now, you will achieve nothing. If you don't believe me, let's make a bet. The demon ancestor said indifferently. I'll give it a try. Mu Qing snorted coldly and immediately got up to leave. You really won't cry until you're in the coffin. The fiend ancestor sighed. Pei Tianhong and the rest looked at each other and quietly followed, ready to watch the show. Let's go take a look too. Dong Zhengyang looked at Mu Tianyang and the demon ancestor as he shook his head and smiled bitterly. Kanglan Snow Mountain. An invisible barrier enveloped half of the Kanglan Snow Mountain, blocking the invasion of ice and snow. After all these years, the barrier had long been filled with green mountains and clear waters. The Feng people lived here peacefully. Whoosh! A figure broke through the air and arrived. It was Mu Qing. Who is it? Before he could get close to the barrier, a middle-aged man rushed into the sky and blocked in front of Mu Qing. Mu Qing took a deep breath and cupped his hands. I am Mu Qing. I would like to enter the phoenix nest to take a look. I hope you can make an exception for me. Mu Qing. The middle-aged man sized up Mu Qing and shook his head. The Feng people have nothing to see. Please leave quickly. This attitude was already very polite. If it was the Feng people of the past, they would definitely chase him away directly. Mu Qing's expression stiffened and hurriedly said, I know Huo Wenchang. The middle-aged man had already turned and left. Hearing this, he couldn't help but stop and look at Mu Qing again. I'm not lying. Huo Wenchang and I are old friends. If you don't believe me, you can ask Huo Wenchang to come out. Mu Qing said anxiously. I'm sorry, the patriarch is not in the phoenix nest now. The middle-aged man said apologetically. Not here. Mu Qing frowned. Yes, the patriarch is in the land of the buried gods. He might only be back at night. Since you know the patriarch, why don't you contact him directly? If he agrees, I can let you enter the phoenix nest. The middle-aged man said. Can't you let me in now? Mu Qing frowned. No. Although the Feng people have an agreement with the demon palace, our phoenix nest is not a place you humans can enter as you wish. We respect you, so please respect us. The middle-aged man said expressionlessly. Mu Qing's expression was a little ugly. I knew it. With your prestige, you can't do it at all. At this moment, The demon ancestor, Mu Tianyang, Dongzhengyang, Pei Tianhong and a group of people walked out of the space divine item. You followed me? Mu Qing raised his eyebrows. That's not the point. Pei Tianhong shook his head and looked at the middle-aged man. He cupped his hands and smiled. I'm Pei Tianhong. Please forgive me for offending you. The middle-aged man scanned the group of people. Wasn't this the demon ancestor? And Pei Tianhong and the rest? They were also Qin Feiyang's subordinates. What were these people doing in the phoenix nest? Whoosh! Suddenly, a golden figure appeared from a glacier not far away. Golden-winged Wolf King. The middle-aged man looked up and his expression changed drastically. Seeing the white-eyed wolf appear, Mu Qing's expression turned extremely ugly. Aren't you very capable? The white-eyed wolf walked over and looked at Mu Qing mockingly. Mu Qing looked at the middle-aged man and sent a sound transmission. Bastard, don't go too far. Leave me some face. The white-eyed wolf looked at the middle-aged man with disdain. He said indifferently, if brother wants to enter the phoenix nest, do I have to get the permission of my father-in-law? When he mentioned his father-in-law, his expression was very unnatural. No need, no need. The middle-aged man waved his hand and quickly ran to the front of the barrier. He took out a token and opened the barrier. Then, he retreated to the side and said respectfully, Lord Wolf King, please. The white-eyed wolf was very satisfied. He looked at Mu Qing and stepped into the phoenix nest. How shameless. Mu Qing secretly snorted. This is prestige. You have to admit it. Pei Tianhong chuckled and also stepped into the phoenix nest. After the group of people entered the phoenix nest, the middle-aged man smiled and said, Lord Wolf King, I will go and report to the ancestral patriarchs and ask them to welcome you personally. No need. The white-eyed wolf waved his hand. When the middle-aged man heard this, he stood aside resentfully. Then, should we ask them to gather all the people of the Feng people? It will be easier to investigate. Pei Tianhong secretly asked. No need. If the Phoenix clan really has someone with the strongest fighting soul, they will definitely hide if they know about it in advance. So, we have to launch a surprise attack at this time so that they have nowhere to hide. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed and he sent a sound transmission to Mu Tianyang and the other two. However, don't be too hopeful. Sister Feng has never told me that the Feng people have the strongest fighting soul. Regardless, we have to go and take a look. Dongzhengyang secretly said. Then follow me. The white-eyed wolf took a step forward and rushed to the center of the phoenix nest like lightning. While the white-eyed wolf was leading Mu Tianyang and the others to investigate the three major clans in the Shun family village in the western mainland. Boom! A powerful aura rolled out from the back of the mountain. In the village, the children were playing. The elders in the village were also sitting outside and basking in the sun. However, the appearance of this aura did not cause a commotion. Everyone seemed to be used to it. Qin Feiyang was also sitting at the entrance of the village, drinking tea and playing chess with Shan Mulin. The two of them did not pay attention to the aura that suddenly erupted. However, Qin Feiyang had already turned into a middle-aged man. That's right. He now looked like a middle-aged man. His body was a little plump, and strands of white hair could be clearly seen at his temples. He was filled with an aura of vicissitudes. Opposite him, Shun Mulin looked at the chessboard, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He picked up a black piece and pressed it on a certain spot. The white piece on Qin Feiyang's side immediately became a dead end. Brother Gufeng, admit it. Shun Mulin chuckled. Qin Feiyang glanced at the chessboard and shook his head. I didn't expect Brother Shun's chess skills to be so good. I haven't won a single game in 10 years. Even his voice was filled with the magnetism of a middle-aged man. He had been playing chess since he was young, and his skills were not bad. However, in front of Shun Mulin he was like a child, unable to withstand a single blow. I'll let you win next time. Shun Mulin laughed loudly. After taking the eternal youth elixir, his face was flushed red and he was full of energy. How can I let you win in chess? Qin Feiyang shook his head. At this moment, the aura at the back of the mountain disappeared. After a while, a group of young men and women in their 20s ran out from the back of the mountain in high spirits. The leader was a woman. She was about 1. 75 meters tall and had an exquisite figure. Although she was dressed very simply, it couldn't hide her elegant and refined temperament. Xiaojia, you've finally broken through. Congratulations. Qin Feiyang looked at the woman. It's all thanks to you, Brother Gufeng. If it weren't for your guidance, how could I have broken through so quickly? The woman giggled. That's right. This was the little girl from back then. The group of young people behind her were also the children who followed behind this little girl back then. 10 years had passed. They had all grown up. Shen Xiaojia had already become a slender and elegant woman. Even that snotty kid had turned into a handsome young man. And the aura from before was the aura of Shen Xiaojia's breakthrough. This was no longer a rare thing. Ever since Qin Feiyang took out the eternal youth elixir to help Shen Mulan prolong his life, the people in the village treated him like family. They had never said anything about letting him go. Moreover, after living together for so many years, no one had inquired about Qin Feiyang's background. For them, Qin Feiyang's background was no longer important, because now they had already regarded Qin Feiyang as a member of the village. And Qin Feiyang had also thoroughly integrated into the village life in these 10 years. He followed the men in the village to hunt, followed the women to plant vegetables in the fields, and played with the children in the village. Sometimes even he forgot his true identity and thought that he was Gufeng. Similarly, if the children in the village encountered any difficulties in their cultivation, he would tirelessly guide them as if he was teaching his own children. Chapter 3991. It was also because of Qin Feiyang's guidance that the strength of the young people in the village had increased by leaps and bounds. One had to know. With his current cultivation, any casual word from him would be priceless advice to these young people. Just like the young people of Shen Xiaojia's generation, they had been by Qin Feiyang's side since they were young. Not only had they been influenced by Qin Feiyang, their perseverance and potential had also far surpassed their peers. Shen Xiaojia was only in her 20s, but in her 20s she had already broken through to 1-star War Master. This was under the condition that the gate of potential had not been opened. If the gate of potential had been opened, it would have been even more terrifying. Big Brother Gufeng, I'm about to break through too. A handsome young man looked at Qin Feiyang and chuckled. This person was of course that snotty baby. Good. Qin Feiyang nodded, looked at Shen Mulan and smiled. Brother Shen, your village is full of talents. What do you mean by your village? Shouldn't you be talking about our village? Shen Mulan was displeased. Qin Feiyang was startled, then shook his head and laughed. That's right, our village. That's more like it. You've already lived here for 10 whole years. Look at everyone who has ever treated you as an outsider. So don't treat yourself as an outsider. Shen Mulan smiled, then turned his gaze to Shen Xiaojia and the group of young people. He shook his head and said, as for them, if they didn't have your guidance, how could they be so outstanding? So this is all thanks to you. You're treating me like an outsider. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and smiled. Shen Mulan looked at Shen Xiaojia and smiled. You guys go and play first. Your big brother Gufeng and I still want to play another round. What's the point of playing chess all day? Shen Xiaojia pouted, hugged Qin Feiyang's arm and said, Big brother Gufeng, accompany us out to hunt. That's right. I heard from Big Brother Dezhuang that a War King level Beast King has recently appeared in the mountains ahead. I really want to meet it. Everyone's eyes lit up as they looked at Qin Feiyang expectantly. I think you guys are really arrogant. With your little strength you dare to challenge a War King? Shen Dezhuang walked out from the nearby forest with a gigantic beast on his shoulder. It was a black tortoise. Although it was already dead, the aura it left behind was quite shocking. Brother Dezhuang, didn't you go to the city? Why are you carrying a ferocious beast back? Shen Xiaojia and the others surrounded him. I packed it on the way back. Shen Dezhuang threw down the black tortoise and ran in front of Qin Feiyang and Shen Mulan. He smiled and said, Grandpa, Big Brother Gufeng. In the past 10 years, Qin Feiyang had given Shen Dezhuang plenty of pointers. Now he was already a war god at the initial success stage. I'm back. Shen Mulan smiled. Yes. Shen Dezhuang nodded and brought over a stool. He sat beside the two of them and said excitedly, I heard some shocking news today. Qin Feiyong was stunned for a moment and asked with a smile, "What news?" Shen Dezhuang said, "In the battlefield of the land of buried gods, there is a group of people called the Gui Jianqiu." Gui Jianqiu? Qin Feiyong was stunned. "Yes. I heard that the people of the divine kingdom can't help but worry when they see them." Shen Dezhuang nodded. "Who are they?" Qin Feiyong was curious. To be able to make the people of the divine kingdom worry, could it be the White-Eyed Wolf's group? But it couldn't be. If it was really the White-Eyed Wolf's group, there was no need to be so curious. "Dezhuang, tell us, who are they?" Shen Xiaojia and the group of young people also surrounded him with stars in their eyes. "What's the hurry? Look at me, I've said so much, but you don't know how to get a cup of water." Shen Dezhuang glared at the group of people. Okay, I'll go get it now." A young man turned and ran into the village. Soon he came out with a bowl of water. Shen Dezhuang drank it in one go and let out a long breath. He looked at Qin Feiyong and Shen Mulin and said, "This group of people has a big background. The leader is the Blood Hall Master of the West Continent, Pei Tianhong. So it's them." Shen Mulin nodded in realization. Qin Feiyong was stunned for a moment. Then he shook his head and laughed. Shen Dezhuang asked suspiciously, "Big brother Gufeng, why are you shaking your head? Don't you believe me?" No. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. "What I said is true. If you don't believe me, you can go to the city with me and ask around. Pei Tianhong, Wang Chongyuan, and a few elders of the Blood Hall have all been on the battlefield these years. I heard that they specially targeted the people of the God race to challenge them. It's said that they all comprehended the ultimate profound during the battle." "Ultimate profound, I'm so envious." Shen Dezhuang looked at the sky with a yearning expression. Comprehended the ultimate profound? Qin Feiyong was stunned. It was really unexpected. There's another news. It said that the people of the Divine Kingdom wanted to kill someone called the Demon Ancestor, but they didn't succeed. In the end, they even compensated our Sky Cloud realm with an inheritance of the strongest law and ultimate profound. Shen Dezhuang said again. Really? Qin Feiyong was surprised. Many people are talking about this. It should be true. Shen Dezhuang was also a little uncertain. After all, he didn't see it with his own eyes. Qin Feiyong's eyes flickered. Since it spread to such a remote place, then it should be true. These guys are not bad. They actually got an inheritance of the strongest law and ultimate profound. For the current situation, it was indeed good news. Shen Dezhuang asked, "Big brother Gufeng, do you know the person behind Pei Tianhong and the others?" "The person behind?" Qin Feiyong was stunned. "I guess that you didn't know. The person behind Pei Tianhong and the others is the famous Qin Feiyong of our Sky Cloud realm." Shen Dezhuang's face was full of admiration. Qin Feiyong laughed and asked, "Is this Qin Feiyong very powerful?" "Of course. Not only the people of our Sky Cloud realm, even the people of the Divine Kingdom who saw him were like mice seeing a cat. In recent years, the famous madman Mo and the golden-winged wolf king are his brothers." Shen Dezhuang said with a smile. "So it's like that." Qin Feiyong laughed. "I really want to meet this legendary figure. However, for small characters like us, it's probably harder than ascending to the sky to meet him." Shen Dezhuang sighed in disappointment. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled. "It's not that exaggerated. Maybe you've already met him, but you just didn't notice. It's not exaggerated at all. And after all, he's in existence standing at the top of the Sky Cloud realm. How could he come to meet a small character like me?" Shen Dezhuang said. Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. He really didn't expect that in the eyes of the world, he had become so unattainable. "Don't think about such a big character. You guys go ahead. I'll play another game with brother Gufeng." Shen Mulin waved his hand. "Okay." Shen Dezhuang nodded, got up and looked at Shan Xiaojia's group, and shouted, "Come and help me deal with this black tortoise." After the group of young people left, Shen Mulin cleaned up the chess pieces on the chessboard while looking at Qin Feiyong. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyong noticed Shen Mulin's abnormality and asked suspiciously, "Brother Gufeng, although I don't know how strong you are, from the way you tested Dezhuang, you're definitely not an ordinary person. But why have you aged so much in the past 10 years? And your aura is getting weaker and weaker." Shen Mulin frowned. Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and said with a smile, "Brother, you found out." A young man turned into an old middle-aged man in 10 years. It's hard not to notice such an obvious change. Shen Mulan glared at him angrily. Actually, it's nothing. Qin Feiyong shook his head. How can it be nothing? You obviously have something to say. If you really treat us as a family, tell me the truth. Shen Mulan said. This, Qin Feiyong pondered for a while and said with a smile, all right then, I'll tell you the truth. Actually, I'm also nearing the end of my life. What? Shen Mulan's hands trembled, and the chess pieces in his hands fell to the ground. What's wrong? Hearing the commotion, Shen Dezhuang and the others immediately looked over. Nothing. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and said telepathically, Brother Shen, calm down, calm down. Shen Mulan looked at Shen Dezhuang and the others and said angrily, how can I calm down? Why didn't you say so earlier? It's already destined. What's there to worry about? Besides, what's the use of worrying? Worrying can't change fate, so it's better to accept it and live happily every day. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Shen Mulan was speechless. He shook his head and sighed. I really admire your attitude. You know my situation. To be honest, before I took the Eternal Youth Elixir, I couldn't be as calm as you. Qin Feiyong smiled and bent down to pick up the chess pieces on the ground. Shen Mulan sighed and also bent down to pick up the chess pieces. But suddenly, he was stunned and said telepathically, Brother, don't you have the Eternal Youth Elixir? I've already taken one. The Eternal Youth Elixir is the same as the Life Extension Elixir. It can only be taken once. The second time will have no effect. Qin Feiyong smiled. Shen Mulan's expression froze. He looked at Qin Feiyong silently. Qin Feiyong looked at Shen Mulan and shook his head. Brother Shen, you don't have to sympathize with me. I'm not sympathizing with you. I'm just sad for you. Shen Mulan sighed. Although they had only known each other for 10 years, he could already tell that this was a kind person. Why was he facing such a desperate situation? If it was something else, he would try his best to help. But when it came to the end of one's lifespan, even if a deity came down, there was nothing he could do. Please don't be sad. It's because I saw that the people in the village are simple and kind. Everyone is living happily. That's why I decided to stay and live the rest of my life peacefully. Qin Feiyong smiled. Hearing this, Shen Mulan picked up all the chess pieces. Looking at the smile on Qin Feiyong's face, he seemed to be relieved. He smiled and said, okay, I promise to keep it a secret for you. I also promise to let you live the rest of your life peacefully. Thank you. Qin Feiyong smiled gratefully. You. Shen Mulan shook his head and smiled. Then let's continue. Okay. This time I'll definitely win. Qin Feiyong nodded and laughed heartily. Chapter 3992. After several days of investigation, the Feng people and the Kirin clansmen were all excluded. Almost nothing was missed. The white-eyed wolf didn't even let go of the spatial divine items. Although spatial divine items could be hidden, they couldn't hide from his divine sense. No matter whose spatial divine item it was, he had to check it. He didn't even let go of Qi Xiaoyun's spatial divine item. Of course, Qi Xiaoyun was also very cooperative. Finally, a group of people arrived at the dragon lair. What's going on? Long Chun looked at the group of people with a stunned expression. The white-eyed wolf grinned and said, Aren't we here to see if you have the people we need hidden here? Long Chun was stunned and shook his head speechlessly. If I did, I would have told you long ago. That's not necessarily true. Back then you didn't tell us about the first prince of the Dragon's Eye of Heaven, right? The white-eyed wolf looked at him mockingly. Fine. There's no point in talking too much. Look for it yourself. Long Chun shrugged helplessly. However, at this moment, Long Qin flew through the air and stood in front of the white-eyed wolf and the others. She said coldly, Do you think you can check just because you want to? What kind of place do you think our dragon lair is? I'm not in the mood to mess with you now. The white-eyed wolf frowned. Am I messing with you? Get lost immediately. Long Qin stood on the barrier and her eyes flashed coldly. The white-eyed wolf narrowed his eyes and looked at the woman. Suddenly, he turned to Long Chen and laughed. Are you feeling guilty? Long Chen's pupils shrank slightly, but he immediately concealed it and looked at Long Qin with a smile. Qin just let them check. No. Do they really think our dragon lair is a place where they can come and go as they please? Long Qin snorted coldly. She had also returned from the land of buried gods. Since she had returned from the land of buried gods, she had naturally found the answer Long Qian wanted. Damn woman, I'm not joking with you. Get out of the way immediately. White-eyed wolf's gaze turned cold. You still want to threaten me? Long Qin shouted angrily. If you continue to stop me like this, then I have reason to suspect that you are hiding something. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed with killing intent. Strands of the power of law spread out. The law of time, the law of death, the law of karma. There was also his newly fused inheritance, the law of space and time. The power of the four supreme laws surged in the void behind the white-eyed wolf like rolling waves, exuding a destructive aura. Long Qin's face darkened when he saw this. Long Qian stepped forward and pulled Long Qin away. He said in a low voice, "Let them investigate." But Long Qin frowned. This wolf cub's attitude was too arrogant. Furthermore, it was clear that he did not trust them. All right. It's not like we'll lose anything. Long Qian smiled faintly. You have a good temper. Long Qin snorted. He was extremely unhappy. Long Qian smiled, looked at White-Eyed Wolf and asked, "Do you need me to gather all the people of the dragons? That would be for the best." White-Eyed Wolf withdrew the power of laws. Long Qian had long known about Mu Tianyang and the others' war souls, so there was no need to launch a surprise attack because it was meaningless. Everyone listen to my order and gather immediately. Remember everyone, Long Qian said. His voice was like a bell, resounding throughout the entire dragon's nest. As soon as his voice fell, figures rushed out from the mountains in all directions, rushing over in a steady stream. Among them, there were many familiar faces. The patriarchs of various clans, the princes and princesses of various clans, the elders of various clans and reclusive antiques. There were also the followers of the princes and princesses. As soon as these people arrived, their gazes fell on White-Eyed Wolf. White-Eyed Wolf could feel many gazes full of hatred. For example, the second princess of the dragons, the third prince and the others. These people, whether it was towards White-Eyed Wolf, Qin Feiyang and Frenzy, were full of resentment. However, today they were no longer on the same level as Qin Feiyang and the others. Could even be said that, now in front of Qin Feiyang and the others, they had to humbly call themselves juniors. So, White-Eyed Wolf was too lazy to glare at them and directly ignored them. This was a very realistic problem. Although you were once my opponents, now you are no longer worthy. It was very efficient. In just a few hundred breaths, tens of thousands of divine dragons had gathered in front of them. Of course, most of them were in human form, and only the newborn dragons had the body of a divine dragon. This efficiency also reflected Long Qian's current status among the dragons. Look carefully. White-Eyed Wolf looked at Mu Qing and the other two and said. The three of them rose into the air and scanned everyone in the dragons. At the same time, White-Eyed Wolf's spirit sense rolled out and enveloped the entire dragon's lair in an instant. Immediately, he raised his eyebrows. There were still two people who hadn't arrived. These two people, one was Long Zun, and the other was the little princess of the dragons. Long Qian looked at White-Eyed Wolf and said, If you want to investigate anyone else, you can, but only my mother. This is my bottom line. Is that little princess of the dragons also your bottom line? White-Eyed Wolf asked. Linglong is a very obedient and sensible girl, so my mother kept her by her side. If you want to investigate her, you have to ask my mother's opinion. Long Qian smiled faintly. White-Eyed Wolf frowned imperceptibly. Frankly speaking, he was really a little afraid of Long Zun. But what he was afraid of was not Long Zun's strength. No matter how strong Long Zun was, he was not afraid. The reason he was afraid was Ice Dragon. After all, this woman was Ice Dragon's wife and could not be offended. Putting this matter aside for the time being, White-Eyed Wolf continued to search the dragon's lair. Finally, his divine sense searched the entire dragon's lair. Other than Long Zun, Linglong, and Madman who was in seclusion, he did not find anyone else. Don't worry. I knew that you would come sooner or later, so even the clansmen who were participating in the friendly competition in the land of the buried gods have been recalled in advance. Long Qian smiled. White-eyed wolf retracted his divine sense and turned to look at Long Chan. You really have foresight, but if that's the case, then can I also understand that you knew we would come, so you also made arrangements in advance? What do you mean? Long Chan raised his eyebrows. Slowly comprehend it yourself. After White-eyed Wolf finished speaking, he raised his head and looked at Dong Jungyang and the other two. The three of them slowly retracted their gazes with a trace of disappointment in their eyes. Then they landed beside White-eyed Wolf and shook their heads. Could it be that they are really in the divine kingdom? White-eyed Wolf frowned. Suddenly, he once again released his divine sense and shrouded the thousands of dragons in front of him. He wouldn't have known if he hadn't seen it, but when he did, he was shocked. There were at least hundreds of thousands of divine spatial items on these dragons. White-eyed Wolf's eyes flashed. He looked at Mu Tianyang and the others and said, investigate their divine spatial items. Devil Ancestor Pei Tianhong Wang Changyuan, help me. What? The people of dragons were in an uproar. This is too much. They were already very polite to cooperate with the investigation, but now they want to investigate their divine spatial items? Brother Wolf, isn't this a bit inappropriate? Long Chun also frowned. Little Chun, why is it inappropriate? Since we have already found this place, we naturally have to get to the bottom of it. Not only them. Do you want me to take a look at your divine spatial items as well? White-eyed Wolf turned around and looked at the siblings. Bastard, you've gone too far. Long Chin immediately pounced on him angrily. White-eyed Wolf took a step and calmly avoided him. He landed beside Long Chun and laughed. Don't worry, I'm only interested in people now. I will not touch your treasures. Alright, I'll do as you say. Long Chun was helpless. He waved his hand and the two of them appeared in an unfamiliar place. This was a vast expanse of land. There were mountains and rivers, the sun, moon and stars. Dense essence chi permeated the air like white mist. The entire land was cultivated with countless medicinal herbs, fruit trees and even a tea garden. But other than that, there was nothing else. White-eyed Wolf said in astonishment, there's even a sun, moon and stars. Is this also an independent world? Long Chun was amused when he heard this. Do you really think that an independent world is like a cabbage that can be found everywhere? The sun, moon and stars here were all formed by his law. White-eyed Wolf smiled embarrassedly and released his spirit sense to cover the entire land. He did not find a single living thing. This should be a place that Long Chun specially used to cultivate medicinal herbs. How is it? Long Chun asked with a smile. Cough cough. White-eyed Wolf coughed dryly, looking slightly embarrassed. But suddenly, his gaze swept across the tea garden with a trace of surprise in his eyes. Seeing this, Long Chun decisively took White-eyed Wolf and left the spatial divine object. White-eyed Wolf was stunned for a moment. Glancing at Pei Tianhong and the others, he moved closer to Long Chun and laughed. Young man, not bad, you're hiding such a treasure. Long Chen's mouth twitched and secretly said, I'll tell you, but you must not tell Qin Feiyang. Then is there any hush money? White-eyed Wolf looked at him sneakily. No. Long Chen's face suddenly darkened. This damn wolf cub really did not miss any opportunity to blackmail. You should know that little Qinzi's favorite tea is this. If he knows that you're hiding so much divine tea, he will definitely keep an eye on you. White-eyed Wolf laughed. That's right. In the tea garden, he found at least 3 different kinds of tea trees, and they were all divine tea. Long Chun glanced at him and said lightly, up to you. At most, I'll give a few to Qin Feiyang. In short, if you want to blackmail me, there's no way. I can't spoil this guy's bad habit. You win. White-eyed Wolf glared at him, then looked at Long Qin and said, Little Fairy, let's go. Little Fairy? Long Qin was stunned. This name sounded quite comfortable. It seemed that this wolf cub was not so hateful and had good taste. Hey, what are you waiting for? I said you're a little fairy. Do you really think you're a little fairy? Why don't you look in the mirror? You're more like a little witch. White-eyed Wolf pursed his lips. White-eyed Wolf. Long Qin suddenly roared in anger, took out an intermediate dominator divine weapon, and attacked White-eyed Wolf. Damn. Are you crazy? White-eyed Wolf's face changed greatly, and he turned around to run. His battle soul was powerful, but it could not do anything to a dominator divine weapon. Not to mention it was an intermediate dominator divine weapon. Chapter 3993. Serves you right. Who told you to be arrogant? It's best to kill you with one sword. The people from the dragons were all gloating as they watched the white-eyed wolf escape. Long Chen touched his chin and looked at the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin, but his expression was somewhat thought-provoking. Don't you feel that the two of them are quite compatible? Suddenly, a voice rang out. Long Chen was slightly stunned and turned his head to look. Unknowingly, Demon Ancestor was standing beside him. At this moment, he was also laughing as he looked at the two chasing white-eyed wolf. Cough cough. Long Chen coughed and shook his head. Don't talk nonsense. The golden-winged wolf king is already taken. It's not a problem to marry another one, Demon Ancestor said. Long Chen looked at Demon Ancestor in shock. Demon Ancestor laughed. What a pair of enemies. If they really come together for us, it's really a good thing. The more you say, the more you go overboard. Long Chen's face darkened. Isn't that so? Although we haven't been in contact much, I know that you don't want to pursue the past. But there's no other way. This isn't something you can decide. You have to consider your mother and your sister. So, as long as we have a marriage, your troubles will naturally be solved. I don't believe that your mother will force you to kill her future son-in-law. Similarly, if we have a marriage, the grudge between Qin Feiyang and your father can also be resolved. Look, what a perfect ending. Demon Ancestor laughed. Long Chen looked at Demon Ancestor in a daze. After a long while, he shook his head and laughed. I really didn't expect that the person who understands me the most in this world is actually you. As the saying goes, the onlooker sees the game clearly. The reason why Qin Feiyang and the rest can't see through you is because they value you too much. But I'm different. In my eyes, you're no different from others. There's trouble, pain, helplessness, and also a goal that you want to pursue. Demon Ancestor laughed. Long Chen was stunned and asked with a smile, then what do you think I want to pursue? World peace. Family reunion. A normal life. Demon Ancestor said. Even Long Chen couldn't help admiring the Devil Ancestor for being able to see through everything. He nodded and sighed. Not bad. That's all I want. It's not much and it's not excessive, but to me it's an extravagant hope. It's the same. Look at Qin Feiyang. That's all he wants. However, there are many things in this world that are beyond our control. Demon Ancestor sighed. Yes. He nodded. The Demon Ancestor faintly smiled. Then, he continued to help investigate the space god item. Enemy, Long Chen muttered. Looking up at the white-eyed wolf and Long Qin who were still chasing each other, a smile gradually crept onto his face. Don't say. Looking at them seriously, they were really a good match. Wait, what was he thinking? As a man, how could he sacrifice his sister's happiness in exchange for an easy life? However, what if they really liked each other and fell in love with each other? In that case, it would not be considered a sacrifice. Instead, he would find happiness. But then, how would he solve Fire Dance's problem? Demon Ancestor's words made Long Chen's mind very confused. A moment passed. Long Qin walked over proudly. The white-eyed wolf followed behind with a gloomy face, staring at Long Qin's back. His eyes were full of anger, as if to say, if you have the ability, put down the sovereign divine weapon and fight with me. That's enough. Long Chen calmed down and looked at the two helplessly. Who's messing with him? If it wasn't for you, I would have crippled him. Long Qin's face was full of disdain. You talk as if you're very strong. If it wasn't for the dragon's territory, I would have trampled you on the ground. The white-eyed wolf rubbed the big meat bun on his forehead and snorted coldly. The meat bun was naturally beaten up by Long Qin. Why don't you try? Long Qin took out the sovereign divine weapon again. The white-eyed wolf took a big step forward and hid behind Long Chen. He said angrily, Little Chen, don't you care about your sister? With such a fiery temper, no one would want her even if she gave herself to him. Long Qin gritted his teeth. Stop. Long Chen rubbed his forehead and turned to the white-eyed wolf. He said, do you still want to check her spatial divine item? What's wrong with these two? They fight every time they see each other. They don't even stop for a moment. Of course, The white-eyed wolf nodded. Then it's settled. You're a man. Why are you fighting with a woman? Long Chen said helplessly. Long Qin was unhappy again. He looked at Long Chen unhappily and said, Brother, why do I feel like I'm being unreasonable? No. You're right. It's not a problem to complete it. Long Chen quickly comforted him. How tiring. The white-eyed wolf rubbed his forehead and looked at Long Qin. He said, Hurry up. Don't waste everyone's time. Long Qin reluctantly put away the sovereign divine weapon and entered the spatial divine item with the white-eyed wolf. Maybe it'll work. Long Chen murmured. The fiercer the fight, the more they'll care about each other. It's hard for the person involved to notice this kind of thing, but it's easy for others to notice. In the blink of an eye, a few days passed. The inspection of all the spatial divine items was finally completed. Mu Tianyang and the other two were extremely disappointed because they didn't find their old enemy. Dong Zhengyang said, Now we can basically confirm that things are going in the worst direction. Yes. The person we're looking for is most likely in the divine kingdom. Mu Tianyang nodded. The worst direction? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. What did he mean? If our old enemy is in the sky cloud realm, then even without your help, we can snatch it with our current strength. But if it's someone from the divine kingdom, at that time while snatching the war souls, we'll also be in great danger. Because the divine kingdom's strength is too strong. Dong Zhengyang sighed. That's true. The white-eyed wolf nodded and rolled his eyes. He looked at Long Chen and said, Forget about your mother. Everyone has seen her in the ancient realm. But I have to see the little princess of the dragons. Up to you. But you can't offend my mother. That's the premise. Long Chen said. How troublesome. The white-eyed wolf snorted and led the demon ancestor and the others to fly toward the mountains not far away. Let's go. Long Chen looked at the people around him and ordered. He also took Long Qin and chased after the white-eyed wolf and the others. Most people immediately turned around and left. But some people turned to look at the white-eyed wolf and the others. The second princess and the others were among them. I'm really not convinced. Why can they ride on our heads and behave so atrociously? The prince of the Blood Dragon clan clenched his fists, his face full of hostility. Why? That's because of their strength. If you have their strength, you can also be so arrogant. In short, we're no longer people of the same world as them. The second princess sighed. Isn't it all someone's fault? If he hadn't lost to Qin Feiyong back then and allowed Qin Feiyong's Eye of Heaven to evolve, would Qin Feiyong be so heaven-defying now? The prince of the White Dragon clan sneered and glanced at the first prince of the dragons not far away. He didn't lower his voice, and it fell clearly into the first prince of the dragon's ears. The first prince of the dragons looked at them and said coldly, Since you're so powerful, why didn't anyone kill them back then? When you went to deal with them, it seems that Qin Feiyong's Eye of Heaven hadn't evolved yet. The princes and princesses glared at the first prince. Things have already come to this, and there's no way to change it. Instead of blaming the heavens and blaming others, it's better to work hard and strive to catch up to them. Look at our little sister. In the blink of an eye, she's already connected with the dragon sovereign. The first prince of the dragons glanced at them and turned to leave quickly. Ling Long, the group of princes and princesses looked at the place where the dragon sovereign was. Their eyes filled with jealousy. This woman was really something. She had unknowingly gained the favor of the dragon sovereign, and was even allowed to stay by his side. No one knew what kind of fortune she had obtained. At the same time, behind the crowd, the silver dragons looked at the dragon sovereign's residence with a worried expression and muttered, Ling Long, don't let them see your battle soul. A small stream meandered down from the mountainside. The stream water was clear. On both sides, the vegetation was lush and the scenery was pleasant. Beside the small stream, there was an antique pavilion. At this moment, on the balcony of the attic, there was a graceful and elegant woman sitting there. This person was the dragon sovereign. In front of her was a round table with an incense burner on it. Wisps of green smoke floated, emitting a faint fragrance. Next to her, there was also a teacup with the fragrance of tea. She sat on a bamboo chair with her eyes slightly closed, as if she was resting. Lord Dragon Sovereign is really leisurely. This junior is a little envious. Accompanied by laughter, the white-eyed wolf led the demon ancestor and the group to the pavilion. The dragon sovereign did not open his eyes. There was no response. It was as if he did not hear anything. Longchan and Longqin followed and landed on the balcony. Mother. Longchan wanted to say something, but the dragon sovereign raised his hand to stop him. He slowly opened his eyes and looked down at the white-eyed wolf, a cold light flashing in his eyes. At this moment the demon ancestor, Pei Tianhong, and the others could faintly feel a sense of oppression. But the white-eyed wolf did not seem to feel it. He took a step forward and directly stepped onto the balcony. He looked at the empty bamboo chair opposite the dragon sovereign and sat down on it. After so many years you are still so presumptuous. The dragon sovereign looked at the white-eyed wolf sitting opposite him and the cold light in his eyes slowly disappeared. After so many years you are still so domineering. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed with a touch of ridicule. He looked at Longqin and said, "Woman, why are you so insensible? The guest is already sitting here. Why don't you hurry and pour tea for the guest?" Longqin rolled her eyes and pointed at the stream next to them. "There is water there. You can drink as much as you want. Lord Dragon Sovereign, look at this, your precious daughter really can't do it. I'm worried about her future." The white-eyed wolf sighed. "Bastard, don't talk nonsense in front of my mother." Longqin glared fiercely. "Can't I speak the truth?" The white-eyed wolf laughed and looked around. He asked curiously, "Where is the little princess? Why don't I see her?" The dragon sovereign picked up the teacup on the table and slowly took a sip. Then he said, "Is there something you need from Linglong?" "Lord Dragon Sovereign, aren't you asking the obvious? Besides, if there is nothing, would I dare to disturb your cultivation? In any case, you are an elder." The white-eyed wolf grinned. When the word elder came out of his mouth, it was completely different. Chapter 3994. Longchan was very nervous now. He was afraid that the white-eyed wolf's behavior would anger his mother. But unexpectedly, Longzuan was not angry. While drinking tea, he looked at the white-eyed wolf indifferently. That kind of gaze was full of coldness, as if he was looking at a clown. On the contrary, the white-eyed wolf was a little annoyed. He was most annoyed by others looking at him like this. This made Ancestor Devil and the others nervous, because they all knew the white-eyed wolf's temper. Once the white-eyed wolf's anger was aroused, he would even dare to provoke the emperor. "You must calm down. Now is not the time to fight." Fortunately, the white-eyed wolf did not flare up. Although he was usually a little unreliable, he still had a sense of the big picture. Not to mention, now that there was no Qin Feiyang, he had to be more careful with every matter. He said indifferently, "Lord Longzuan, let's not stare at each other here. Quickly let Linglong out. Linglong is now my adopted daughter. What qualifications do you have to let her out?" Longzuan said indifferently, "Adopted daughter?" The white-eyed wolf was shocked. Ancestor Devil and the others also looked at each other. What was so outstanding about this little princess of the dragons that made Longzuan value her so much and even take her as his adopted daughter? At the same time, Longchan also frowned without leaving a trace. Looking at the reaction of the white-eyed wolf and the others, he said, "Mother, you shouldn't say that. I said that because I'm protecting her at your request. Is there a problem?" Longzuan was suspicious. "You do have good intentions, but the effect will be counterproductive." Longchan sighed secretly. "Counterproductive?" Longzuan was puzzled. "That's right. If you don't show that you care so much, they won't be suspicious. But now you said that Linglong is your adopted daughter. Then they will definitely guess why you value Linglong so much? In short, hearing what you said, they are now more interested in Linglong." Longchan sighed secretly. When Revered Dragon heard this, he transmitted his voice, "I was careless. What do we do now? What else can we do? Right now, they will definitely only leave when they see someone. Let Linglong come out. We have to face them sooner or later." Longchan thought. He could only hope that the white-eyed wolf would not let Linglong activate her fighting soul in front of everyone. Longzun put down his teacup and looked at the white-eyed wolf. He said coldly, "Fine, I'll let Linglong come out. But you'd better behave yourself. After the examination, get lost immediately. You can rest assured. If there's nothing important, I won't disturb your meditation. The white-eyed wolf sneered. That better be the case. Long Zun snorted coldly and turned to look at the inner room. He said indifferently, Linglong, come out. Not long after he finished speaking, Linglong pushed open the door and quickly walked out, obediently standing behind Long Zun. The white-eyed wolf immediately winked at Mu Tianyang and the other two. He then raised his head and looked at Linglong. He smiled and said, long time no see. Receiving the order, Mu Tianyang and the other two immediately stared at Linglong. Linglong looked at the white-eyed wolf indifferently and did not say anything. She was very calm. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flickered as he glanced at Mu Tianyang and the other two. The three of them shook their heads and did not reject Linglong. The white-eyed wolf frowned. Without the strongest fighting soul, how could she be protected by Long Zun? Could it be immediately? He released his divine thought and shrouded Linglong. Just then, Long Zun waved his hand and dispersed the white-eyed wolf's divine thought. He said indifferently, you don't have to search her. There is indeed a space divine item in her body. Linglong, take it out and let him check. Linglong nodded. With a wave of her hand, a palm-sized ancient pagoda appeared and flew in front of the white-eyed wolf. Looking at the ancient pagoda floating in front of him, the white-eyed wolf's eyes flickered. He immediately entered the ancient pagoda and began a thorough search, but in the end, he found some spirit veins, crystal veins, and herbs. It seems that Long Zun values this woman's talent. The white-eyed wolf muttered and took a deep look at Linglong. He then looked at Mu Tianyang and the others and said, let's go. It seemed that the person they were looking for was really in the divine kingdom. At the same time, seeing the white-eyed wolf and the others rise into the air and leave without looking back, Long Chun could not help but let out a long breath. Brother, what are you nervous about? Long Qin looked at Long Chun suspiciously. You don't understand. Long Chun waved his hand. Long Qin was displeased. If you don't explain it, of course I don't understand. She looked at Long Zun again. I don't know either. Anyway, your brother just asked me to protect Linglong. Long Zun shook his head and smiled bitterly. She was also puzzled by Long Qin's actions. It was obviously impossible to say that it was because of Linglong's talent. Linglong was still a distance away from being a true genius. But other than talent, what other reason could there be? Wait, could it be that this guy had taken a fancy to this girl? Long Zun looked at Long Chun. It seemed that this was the only reason that made sense. Not bad, not bad. Finally, he was moved. Linglong was still a little bit away from being his daughter-in-law. But as long as Long Chun liked her, it was fine. Mother, don't let your imagination run wild in your mind. Long Chun looked at Long Zun and said helplessly. You know what I'm thinking? Long Zun pursed his lips and teased. I came out of your stomach. How can I not know what you're thinking? Long Chun shook his head. Since you know what I'm thinking, then hurry up. I want to hold my grandson soon. Long Zun smiled secretly. As expected. Long Chun smiled bitterly. Strange. White-eyed wolf. After leaving the attic, he had been thinking about it and felt that something was wrong. What's wrong? Pei Tianhong looked at him suspiciously. White-eyed wolf frowned and said, did you notice that both Long Zun and Long Chun care about this woman? Long Zun does care about her, but Long Chun. My attention was on Long Zun and Linglong before. I didn't pay attention to him. Pei Tianhong pondered for a while and shook his head. You didn't notice, but I did. I feel that Long Chun seems to be more nervous than Long Zun. This is what I can't figure out. How can someone like Long Chun be nervous about a woman who doesn't have a close relationship with him? Moreover, even if Linglong has a close relationship with him, as long as he doesn't do anything wrong, there's nothing to be nervous about. White-eyed wolf frowned and suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Everyone also stopped and looked at him in confusion. I know Long Chun too well. Even if the sky falls down, he won't change his color. There must be a reason behind this. White-eyed wolf's eyes flashed and suddenly asked, who knows what Linglong's battle soul is? We don't have much interaction with her. How could we know her battle soul? Demon ancestor was speechless. This time, a young man with dragons passed by. White-eyed wolf's eyes lit up and immediately rushed over and blocked the young man with dragons. Golden Wings Wolf King. The young man with dragons was shocked and a trace of panic appeared on his face. Don't be nervous, don't be nervous. I just want to ask you something. As long as you tell me the truth, I won't make things difficult for you. White-eyed Wolf comforted him. What is it? The young man with dragons trembled and asked. Do you know the little princess of dragons? White-eyed Wolf asked. Dang. The young man with dragons stammered and couldn't say a complete sentence. Dang dang dang, what nonsense. White-eyed Wolf's face darkened and said angrily. Hurry up and tell me. Yes, yes, yes. The young man with dragons quickly nodded and said. She is the princess of the Silver Dragon clan. Of course I know her. Then do you know what her battle soul is? White-eyed Wolf asked curiously. Battle soul? The young man with dragons was stunned. After pondering for a moment, he shook his head and said, I don't know. You don't know? White-eyed Wolf was stunned. Ling Long was the little princess and the focus of attention. How could he not know her battle soul? I really don't know. Because she has never activated her battle soul. Many people in the clan used to say that she might not have a battle soul. The young man with dragons said, No battle soul? White-eyed Wolf and Pei Tianhong looked at each other. How was this possible? Although there were people in this world who couldn't activate their battle soul, as long as one's talent was good, they could activate their battle soul. Ling Long's talent was not bad. It didn't seem right that she didn't activate her battle soul. Is there anything else? The young man with dragons asked nervously. No go. White-eyed Wolf waved his hand. Immediately, the young man with dragons ran away like lightning as if he had been granted amnesty. Brother, am I that scary? White-eyed Wolf was speechless. He looked at Pei Tianhong and the others and said, What do you think of this matter? As the little princess of the dragons, it is indeed a little unreasonable for her to not activate her battle soul. Wang Chongyuan nodded. Could it be that she is hiding her battle soul? The ninth commander was bewildered. Hiding? Mu Tianyang and the other two looked at each other and frowned. But when we saw her, we didn't feel a trace of rejection. Is there any way to avoid this kind of rejection? White-eyed Wolf asked curiously. No. This is the fate of the possessor of the strongest battle soul. Once they meet, nothing will be able to cut off the connection between them. Dong Zhengyang shook his head. White-eyed Wolf heard and sighed. Then it seems that we are thinking too much. She might not have activated her battle soul. No. Suddenly, Demon Ancestor's eyes flashed and said, Although Mu Tianyang and the others did not reject Ling Long, it does not mean that she does not have a battle soul. It is possible that she has activated another strongest battle soul. White-eyed Wolf was stunned when he heard this. Then he slapped his head. That's right. For example, Ling Long had activated the Eye of Heaven. When Mu Tianyang and the other two saw her, they naturally would not reject her. Because of this rejection, there must be two similar battle souls. In that case, Ling Long was still suspicious. It was possible that she was one of the possessors of the Eye of Reincarnation, the Eye of Destruction, the Eye of Oblivion and the Eye of Nothingness. Then do we still need to go back and investigate? Pei Tianhong asked. This? White-eyed Wolf pondered for a while and said with a smirk, Don't alert the enemy first. Long Chun, this brat, thinks that he has fooled us. In the future, he will definitely lower his guard against us. When the time comes, we will seize the opportunity to catch him off guard. I agree too. Demon Ancestor nodded and smiled. This wolf cub had grown a lot and already knew how to think. Chapter 3995. Let's go. Now let's go to the battlefield. I heard that Zhang Chan and the others have come to the Sky Cloud realm again, and there are several unfamiliar faces. Maybe your old enemy is among them, the white-eyed wolf said, turning his head to look at Longzuan's residence. His eyes flashed, and then he waved his hand to open a space-time tunnel. If it's really these people, then you can't just stand by and watch. Dong Zhengyang smiled faintly. Aren't some people very powerful? Why are you asking me for help? The white-eyed wolf glanced at Mu Qing, and then entered the space-time tunnel without looking back. What are you so proud of? Mu Qing snorted secretly. When the all-seeing eye evolves, let's see if you will beg me. The all-seeing eye has the ability to see through all things and see through illusions. In the battle against the divine kingdom, the all-seeing eye will definitely play a key role. But looking at Mu Qing's current attitude, it would not be easy to get him to cooperate in the future. In the attic, after chatting for a while, Long Chun looked at Longzuan and said, "Mother, I'll take my leave first." "Okay." Longzuan nodded. "You will stay with Mother from now on." Long Chun looked at Ling Long and said, "Okay." For Ling Long, staying with Longzuan was of course what she wished for. Because of this, not only could she protect herself with the cover of Long Chun and the others, but she could also get an unexpected opportunity. Immediately, Long Chun turned and left. "Brother, wait for me." Long Qin hurriedly chased after him. "Go do your thing, don't follow me." While speaking, Long Chun opened a space-time tunnel and walked in without looking back. Long Qin stopped in front of the tunnel. She could have followed in, but seeing Long Chen's serious tone, she hesitated. Just as she hesitated, the space-time tunnel dissipated. Battlefield. Not far away on the top of a giant mountain, the white-eyed wolf and a group of people walked out of the space-time tunnel and stood on the cliff, looking at the battlefield. On the battlefield there was a familiar figure. It was the white-haired old man from the Feng people. This person was a reclusive old antique of the Feng people. His battle prowess was extraordinary. Although his opponent was not of the God clan, his strength was also very strong. It was hard to tell who would win. The white-eyed wolf glanced at them briefly before looking up at the sky above the battlefield. Yun Xiang sat cross-legged in the air, closing his eyes to recuperate. Opposite, Jiang Yunshuang also sat on a palm-sized chair and narrowed his eyes. Strange. The white-eyed wolf frowned. "What is it?" Everyone was suspicious. The white-eyed wolf looked at the several 100,000 people of the divine kingdom and asked with a frown, "Why don't I see Zhang Chan and the others? Yeah. Where are they?" Ancestor Mo and the others looked at Pei Tianhong and the others. Because Pei Tianhong and the others had been on the battlefield, they should know the situation. "We don't know where they are either." Back then they only appeared for a short period of time. After that, they never appeared again. Even Ryuko rarely came to the battlefield in recent years. Pei Tianhong shook his head. Could it be that they are in seclusion in the core area? Ancestor Mo frowned. "I'll go to the core area to take a look." The white-eyed wolf opened another space-time tunnel and descended in the sky above the core area. In the mountains there were towering trees everywhere, full of vitality. Whoosh! Accompanied by the sound of breaking air, Ryuko rushed out from the mountains and landed in front of the white-eyed wolf. He frowned and said, "What are you doing here? You really think this is your territory? Don't forget, this place is under the jurisdiction of my Sky Cloud realm. I can come and go as I wish. Do I need your permission?" The white-eyed wolf sneered. His divine sense rolled out and covered more than half of the core area. "What are you looking for?" Ryuko raised his eyebrows. "I heard that Zhang Qian and the others also came to the Sky Cloud realm, so I wanted to visit these old friends." The white-eyed wolf laughed. "You're so kind?" Ryuko sneered and said lightly, "They have already gone back." Gone back? The white-eyed wolf was slightly taken aback. He couldn't help but look up at the gate of the divine kingdom suspended above the clouds. Ryuko said indifferently, "The last time they came to the Sky Cloud realm, they were purely here to watch the show. After watching the show, of course, they would return to the divine kingdom to cultivate." Watch the show. The white-eyed wolf was stunned. This answer was really a bit unexpected. He then retracted his gaze and looked at Ryuko. "Is that all?" Ryuko heard this and his heart trembled. Could it be that the golden-winged wolf king had already noticed? Impossible. They had never made this matter public, and it was impossible for it to be leaked. This guy must be here to trick him. Thinking of this, Ryuko was extremely calm and said lightly, "What do you think? I thought you had some unspeakable secrets." The white-eyed wolf grinned. "Your imagination is too rich." Ryuko smiled and said, "Since you're already here, why don't you go down and have a seat? In fact, I've long wanted to have a good chat with you." The white-eyed wolf was stunned and said jokingly, "What is there to talk about between us? Don't be so absolute." Ryuko laughed and said, "For example, if you follow Qin Feiyang, you can only dominate the Sky Cloud realm at most." But if, before Ryuko could speak, the white-eyed wolf said, But if I follow you, not only can I dominate the Sky Cloud realm, but I can also dominate the Divine Kingdom. Is this what you want to say? That's right. I've investigated your situation. 6 supreme laws can be said to be shocking. Now you have mastered the ultimate mysteries of the death law, the karma law, and the time law. No, you also got the ultimate mysteries of the space-time law from me last time. So now you have mastered the ultimate mysteries of the 4 supreme laws. If you master the ultimate mysteries of the destruction law and the life law, then you have 6 ultimate mysteries. 6 ultimate mysteries of the 6 supreme laws, plus your battle soul, you're almost invincible. However, if you rely on yourself to comprehend the ultimate mysteries of the destruction law and the life law, I'm afraid you'll have to wait for many years. Ryuko smiled. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed and asked, from what you said, you have the inheritance of the destruction law and the life law? As long as you join the Divine Kingdom, you'll have everything you need. And I always believe that there are no eternal enemies in the world, only interests are eternal. Ryuko spoke frankly with assurance. His eyebrows were full of confidence. He didn't believe that the white-eyed wolf wouldn't be tempted in the face of such temptation. Big brother agrees. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Hearing this, the smile on Ryuko's face grew wider. How about this? You express your sincerity first and give me the inheritance of the ultimate mysteries of the destruction law, or the life law. The white-eyed wolf looked at him teasingly. Do you think it's possible? Ryuko chuckled. Why not? Now that you're the one who's inviting me, you have to show your sincerity first. Who doesn't know how to make empty promises? Or do you think I look like an idiot and can be easily fooled? As soon as I hear about the inheritance of the ultimate mysteries, I run to you and flatter you? The white-eyed wolf said with a smile. Ryuko raised his eyebrows. Let me tell you. The idiot isn't me, it's you. Since you've investigated me, you should know about my relationship with little Qinzi. If you know, then why are you still saying this to me? If you're not an idiot, then what are you? Although I agree with you that there are no eternal enemies, only eternal interests, it depends on who the other party is. Even if you give me the entire Divine Kingdom, don't even think about destroying my relationship with little Qinzi, let alone 2 inheritances. The white-eyed wolf smiled contemptuously and opened a space-time passage. But it's really fun chatting with you. I'll come find you next time. After saying this, with a laugh, the white-eyed wolf entered the space-time passage without looking back. Ryuko clenched his fists and his expression darkened. He said word by word, let's see how long you can be arrogant. At the top of the mountain, seeing the white-eyed wolf come back, Pei Tianhong immediately asked, is he in the core area? No. I heard from Ryuko that he has returned to the Divine Kingdom. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. He returned to the Divine Kingdom so soon. Everyone was surprised. Wait, where are Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing? The white-eyed wolf scanned the top of the mountain and did not see Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing. Wang Chongyuan said, they seem to have something to do and have to leave for a while. Something to do? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. He shook his head and said, what can happen to them? At the border area. In a mountain somewhere. Are you sure? Mu Tianyang and Long Chan stood opposite each other and looked at Long Chan in surprise. Mu Qing stood beside Mu Tianyang with a look of surprise on her face. Of course. I've never joked. Long Chan nodded. Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing looked at each other with joy in their eyes. They asked, who is it? Long Chan smiled and said, I'll tell you as long as you agree to my previous conditions. Hearing this, the two immediately frowned. I'm not in a hurry. Think about it carefully and come to the dragon's nest to look for me. The benefits I promised to give you are still valid. But before that, you must not go to the battlefield again. Long Chan reminded them. We can't go to the battlefield again. Mu Tianyang's eyes flashed and he frowned. Don't tell me that our old enemies are on the battlefield now? That's impossible. We just saw the people on the battlefield. None of them made us feel repulsed. Mu Qing shook her head. Anyway, you can't go. Otherwise, you will definitely be targeted by them. Long Chan smiled and said. He opened the space-time passage and turned to leave. Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing watched Long Chan leave and frowned. Should we believe him? When the space-time passage disappeared, Mu Qing turned to look at Mu Tianyang and asked. From the confidence he showed, it should be true. Mu Tianyang whispered. Then what are we hesitating for? Anyway, we don't have a good impression of Qin Feiyang. We might as well cooperate with him and evolve our battle souls as soon as possible. Mu Qing said. What's wrong with you? You can't be so unprincipled. Although we have a personal grudge with Qin Feiyang, he has taken care of us over the years. Mu Tianyang glared at him. Taking care of us is also because of us, the war souls. If we didn't have the all-seeing eye and the evil eye, do you think he would care about us? Mu Qing snorted coldly. Yes, what you said makes sense. But not for the sake of the monk. If Qin Yuan hadn't helped us in the Great Qin Empire back then, he would have become a wandering ghost long ago. So I have to think about this matter carefully. I'm warning you. Don't be careful. In short, without my permission, you are not allowed to take any action in private. After saying this, Mu Tianyang turned and left. It seems that the ancestor has been influenced by the demon ancestor in Dong Zhengyang and has become indecisive. Looking at Mu Tianyang's back, Mu Qing couldn't help but sigh deeply. Chapter 3996. When the two returned to the top of the mountain, the white-eyed wolf turned his head and glanced at them. Didn't you have something to do? Why are you back so soon? It's nothing serious. Mu Tianyang shook his head and smiled. What about the other sky cloud realm in the Divine Kingdom? They have returned to the Divine Kingdom. It seems that it will be difficult for you to find your enemy. The white-eyed wolf frowned. Hearing this, Mu Tianyang sized up the white-eyed wolf. He was trying his best to help them find their enemy. If he really cooperated with Long Chun at this time and schemed against Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf behind their backs, he still felt a little uneasy. Sigh. Mu Tianyang sighed inwardly and smiled. Anyway, they have returned to the Divine Kingdom. It's useless to be anxious now. Moreover, you have been running around for so long for our matter. Why don't I invite you to Tianyue restaurant for a few drinks? The white-eyed wolf was slightly stunned. He turned his head and looked at Mu Tianyang. At least you have some conscience. Mu Tianyang couldn't help but laugh. He did hate Qin Feiyang and the white-eyed wolf because Shun Mei died in their hands. However, he still wanted to defeat them with his own ability. What do you want to drink now? Why don't we take the opportunity to go to the battlefield to gain experience just like Pei Tianhong and the others? If we can comprehend an ultimate profound in the war, then our efforts won't be in vain. Mu Qing's eyes flashed as he looked at everyone and said, What are you doing? When Mu Tianyang heard this, he immediately raged in his heart. Long Chun had said clearly that they couldn't enter the battlefield. Since Long Chun said so, then their enemy must be hiding somewhere at this moment. Once they went out, they would definitely be targeted by the enemy. When the time came, they were in the open while the enemy was in the dark. It would be impossible to guard against them. Ancestor, don't worry. I know what to do. Mu Qing transmitted his voice. What do you have in mind? Didn't I say that you're not allowed to do anything in private? Mu Tianyang was furious. Mu Qing turned a deaf ear and looked at the demon ancestor and the others. His gaze finally landed on Dong Zhengyang. He smiled and said, Old Dong, what do you think? Dong Zhengyang was completely unaware of Mu Qing's plan. He looked at the battlefield from afar and seemed to be tempted. After all, no matter who it was, they all wanted to prove themselves. Seeing that Mu Qing was specifically targeting Dong Zhengyang, Mu Tianyang immediately understood. He transmitted his voice. You want to scheme against Dong Zhengyang and use him as bait to lure our old enemy out? Not bad. Firstly, there's no risk in doing so. Secondly, we can test whether Long Chun lied to us or not. Mu Qing thought. Mu Tianyang raised his eyebrows. Ancestor, why have you become so indecisive now? This is not your style. Mu Qing was a little displeased with Mu Tianyang's timidity. This is not a problem of indecisiveness. Do you think Long Chan really wants to help us? It's all because Qin Feiyang, Madman Mo, and the white-eyed wolf gave him too much pressure. He had no choice but to cooperate with us. This kind of cooperation is not reliable at all. Mu Tianyang secretly explained and pointed out the stakes. I know. But people like Qin Feiyang will fall out with us sooner or later. We have to think of a way out in advance. Mu Qing said. Silly. Don't you know what kind of person Qin Feiyang is? As long as we don't fall out with him, he will never fall out with us. The past grudges are no longer important to him. Mu Tianyang was very anxious. This boy had been completely bewitched by Long Chan, and now there were signs of qi deviation. I don't care. Every time I see the arrogant attitude of the madman and the white-eyed wolf, I am full of anger. Mu Qing snorted coldly. Mu Tianyang clenched his hands slightly. It seemed that he had to wake this boy up. Otherwise, sooner or later, he would cause a big trouble. Mu Qing's eyes flashed. Looking at Dong Zhengyang, who did not respond for a long time, he said, Are you interested or not? If you are, then do it. You're a man, don't be so wishy-washy. Dong Zhengyang was about to speak. Mu Tianyang put his arm around Dong Zhengyang's neck and said with a smile, We can't beat him. He's just looking for trouble. Why bother? Let's go to Tianyue restaurant for a drink and thank our brother Wolf. Dong Zhengyang was stunned. He shook his head and said with a smile, Okay. When Mu Qing heard this, a trace of anger immediately crept up on her face. But he did not dare to say anything more, and followed everyone to Tianyue restaurant. However, the demon ancestor had always been paying attention to the demon ancestor and Mu Tianyang. Since the two came back, he felt that the two's behavior was a little strange. Tianyue restaurant. In a private room. Brother Wolf. It's really been a long time. Yueqing looked at the white-eyed wolf and said with a smile, This is a little hypocritical. In your eyes there has always been little Qin Zi. When have you ever had a brother? The white-eyed wolf sat casually on the chair and looked at Yueqing teasingly. Yueqing's cheeks turned red. She said with grievance, How can there be such a thing? I treat you all as my brothers. That's what you said. Okay, then you will drink with me today. The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth. Me? Forget it. There are a lot of things waiting for me to deal with every day. Yueqing hurriedly waved her hand. Everyone knew that the golden-winged wolf king was a wine immortal. Drinking with him was simply asking for trouble. Not sincere. Hurry up and serve the good wine and dishes you have here. Today you don't need to pay for free. Someone is treating. The white-eyed wolf chuckled and glanced at Mu Tianyang. Are you planning to rip me off? The corner of Mu Tianyang's mouth twitched. Of course. Do I have to rip you off? The white-eyed wolf bared his teeth and looked at Yueqing. Hurry up and arrange it. Okay. Yueqing nodded, turned around, walked out of the private room, and closed the door. The white-eyed wolf retracted his gaze and looked at the demon ancestor and the others. He asked sneakily, What do you think of this Yueqing? Of course. She's smart and capable. Course it's good. The demon ancestor shook his head and smiled. More importantly, she's still single. You know what I mean, right? The white-eyed wolf chuckled. The demon ancestor and the others were slightly taken aback. When they reacted, they could not help but roll their eyes. Mu Qing's eyes flickered. He sneered and said, Since we're drinking today, let's set the rules in advance. No one can use divine power to refine the alcohol. Let's see who can last until the end. Isn't that what I want? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. He laughed and said, Then it's decided. No one can cheat. Mu Tianyang glanced at the white-eyed wolf and glanced at Mu Qing. He transmitted his voice, What do you want to do now? What else can I want? Drink. Don't you want to thank him? Of course you have to make it comfortable for him. Mu Qing thought to himself. Mu Tianyang looked at him deeply. Better be so. They drank for a day and a night. Everyone was dead drunk. In the private room there were hundreds of empty wine jars. In other words, each of them had drunk dozens of jars. If they used divine power to refine the alcohol, it was naturally nothing. They could drink it no matter how much they drank. But if they could not refine it, even a person like the white-eyed wolf who drank every day could not withstand it. The entire room was filled with the strong smell of alcohol. Come. Why are you all down? Quickly get up and continue. It seems that I'm still the best. The white-eyed wolf held a wine jug. His eyes were hazy with drunkenness. He looked at the demon ancestor and the others. When he found that the group of people were already lying on the table, He could not help but smile. He also fell down and immediately started snoring. This time, the sky was white. The sun rose. A new day had begun. The friendly competition in the land of buried gods had begun again. In the private room, not long after the white-eyed wolf fell down, Mu Qing, who was lying motionless on the table, suddenly slowly raised his head and looked at everyone present. Looking at the unconscious people, a cold smile appeared on his face. There was no trace of drunkenness at all. Obviously, he had been pretending before. Immediately, he slowly got up, looked at Mu Tianyang and walked straight to Dong Zhengyang's side. He was about to pick up Dong Zhengyang, but at this time, a hand pressed on his wrist. His body immediately stiffened. He slowly lowered his head and found that Mu Tianyang, who was lying on the side, slowly raised his head. His eyes were full of anger. He said in a deep voice, "What do you want?" Mu Qing panicked and said in a low voice, "I just want to see if what Long Chan said is true or false. You are gambling with Dong Zhengyang's life." Mu Tianyang said angrily, "Yes. Isn't that what you taught me before? Do whatever you want by hook or by crook. Why? Have you forgotten this now?" Mu Qing's face was cold. Mu Tianyang was furious. "In fact, you are also eager to get the benefits that Long Chun promised us. Otherwise, you could have just directly told the white-eyed wolf and the others about what Long Chun told us. But you didn't mention it at all yesterday. What does this mean?" "It means that you are also hesitating," Mu Qing said. Mu Tianyang seemed a little annoyed. He said, "I am hesitating, but I didn't take action. You don't dare to, because now you are afraid of Qin Feiyang and the others. But I am not afraid. You can pretend that you don't know anything. If there are any consequences, I will bear them alone." Mu Qing pushed away Mu Tianyang's hand and was about to pick up the unconscious Dong Zhengyang. But suddenly, Dong Zhengyang also slowly raised his head. At the same time, White-Eyed Wolf, Demon Ancestor, Pei Tianhong and the others also woke up and looked at Mu Tianyang and Mu Qing. Mu Qing's expression suddenly froze. What was going on? Why were they all awake? Phew! White-Eyed Wolf took a deep breath, leaned on the chair and looked at Mu Qing. "I am really tired. I have been acting with you for a day and a night." "Acting for a day and a night?" Mu Qing was surprised. "That's right. We have been acting with you the whole time. It is for this moment." Pei Tianhong nodded. His eyes filled with a strong cold light. "It's you?" Mu Qing turned to look at Mu Tianyang, her eyes full of anger. Mu Tianyang shook his head. He was also very surprised by this sudden turn of events. "It's me," Demon Ancestor said. Looking at Mu Qing, his eyes were full of disappointment. "You?" Mu Qing looked at Demon Ancestor, her face full of confusion. How did Demon Ancestor know about this? Chapter 3997. Yesterday, when you and Mu Tianyang came back, I felt that something was off, because the two of you kept exchanging glances, as if you were secretly communicating about something. Also, when you urged Dong Zhengyang to go to the battlefield, although you pretended to be calm, I noticed that your eyes seemed to be anticipating something. What puzzled me the most was that you repeatedly asked Dong Zhengyang to go to the battlefield, but Mu Tianyang pulled Dong Zhengyang back just as he was about to be tempted. He also tried his best to persuade him to come to the Tianyue restaurant to drink with the white-eyed wolf. The Demon Ancestor said slowly. Mu Qing's face became gloomier. Of course, the above doesn't prove anything. What really made me suspicious was that before you drank, you suggested that everyone not use divine power to refine the alcohol. After being together for so many years, I know a little about Mu Qing's alcohol tolerance. You can't drink much, let alone with the white-eyed wolf, the god of wine. If you don't use divine power to refine it, you're just looking for trouble. Moreover, what time is it now? The divine kingdom is facing a great enemy, and there could be major changes at any time. Anyone with a little common sense would know that you can't get drunk. So, after combining various factors, I guessed that there was a problem. So, I secretly told everyone to be careful. I didn't expect that we really found a problem in the end, and it didn't seem to be a small problem. After the Demon Ancestor finished speaking, he looked at the white-eyed wolf and said with a smile, "Did you see that? If it wasn't for me today, I'm afraid we would have been tricked by him. So, it's not unreasonable to say that drinking makes trouble. You should drink less in the future. You think you're so great? Actually, I noticed it too. I just pretended not to know. The white-eyed wolf snorted. The demon ancestor was stunned and said with a bitter smile, as long as you're happy. Is it so difficult for you to admit that others are excellent? Dong Zhengyang glanced at Mu Tianyang, then at Mu Qing. His eyes flickered with coldness as he said, give us an explanation. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving the Tianyue restaurant today. He really didn't expect that they would scheme against him. One had to know. Back in Great Qin, if it wasn't for him dealing with Qin Yuan, Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang would have already been reincarnated. Furthermore, it was also because of him that the Forgotten Continent's snow pythons, it should be called the White Dragon now. This was because the snow python used to be a white dragon. Later, it was cursed by the small beast and became a snow python. However, later on, she was very lucky. With Qin Feiyang's help, she consumed the disaster-crossing heavenly pill, broke the curse, and recovered her white dragon body. Because of this, Dong Zhengyang had always been grateful to Qin Feiyang. And back then, it was also because of Dong Zhengyang that the white dragon risked its life to protect a drop of blood from Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang in the Forgotten Continent. In the end, with Qin Yuan's help, it was sent into the gate of rebirth and was reborn. Could be said that the reason why the two of them were able to live until now was entirely because of Dong Zhengyang. It was no exaggeration to say that this was the grace of rebirth. But Mu Qing actually schemed against him now. Wasn't this ungrateful? How could a person be like this? Was his conscience eaten by a dog? Facing Dong Zhengyang's questioning, Mu Qing lowered her head, very flustered. Let me say it. Mu Tianyang sighed and picked up a jug of divine wine that he hadn't finished drinking. He raised his head and drank it in big gulps. This divine wine was the Black Tortoise divine wine, which was brought out from the Black Tortoise realm by Yue Qing. Naturally, he had to take out the divine wine to entertain the white-eyed wolf and the others. After drinking, Mu Tianyang put down the wine pot, exhaled a breath of alcohol, and said actually Long Chun came to find us yesterday and talked to us about something that made him a little obsessed. Long Chun? The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows and asked, what did he talk to you about? Work with him. Mu Tianyang said. Work with him? The white-eyed wolf frowned. That's right. Mu Tianyang nodded and said with a faint smile, to put it simply, he asked us to lie in ambush by your side, and when you turn hostile in the future, we can give you a fatal blow from behind. That bastard. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed with killing intent. What's the condition? The demon ancestor was curious. To be able to make Mu Qing so crazy and even attack his savior, Dong Zhengyang, Long Chen's condition must be irresistible. The inheritance of the ultimate profound meaning of the strongest law. He promised that as long as we agree, he will give each of us an inheritance of the ultimate profound meaning of the strongest law. Mu Tianyang smiled bitterly. In the face of such a temptation, it was really hard to resist. What a big deal. Pei Tianhong and the others were stunned. If each of them had an inheritance, the two of them would have two. Long Chun still had so many inheritances in his hands. As expected of Ice Dragon's son, he was rich and overbearing. Mu Tianyang continued, there's an even bigger temptation, which is why I can't let it go. Everyone looked at each other. What was more tempting than the inheritance of the ultimate profound meaning of the strongest law? Our old enemy. Mu Tianyang paused after every word, then looked at Dong Zhengyang and said again, our old enemy. What? Dong Zhengyang suddenly stood up. The white-eyed wolf and the others could not remain calm. They looked at Mu Tianyang in surprise and asked, you mean Long Chun has already found your old enemy? That's right. According to him, our old enemy is indeed from the Divine Kingdom. Furthermore, he had already investigated this matter 10 years ago. Mu Tianyang nodded. 10 years ago? The white-eyed wolf was stunned and said suspiciously, isn't that when I was in seclusion to integrate the inheritance? That's right. As for how he found out, he didn't say. But at that time I heard that Long Qin appeared on the battlefield 10 years ago. Mu Tianyang said. Long Qin. The white-eyed wolf murmured, and a light gradually appeared in his eyes. He said, I think I already know what's going on. Longqing has the ability to hear other people's voices. She probably went to the battlefield to eavesdrop on the secret conversation between Ryuko and the others. In other words, she confirmed this by eavesdropping on the secret conversation between Ryuko and the others? Pei Tianhong asked. Yes. The white-eyed wolf nodded. Pei Tianhong, Wang Chongyuan, and the others looked at each other. They really did not expect this woman to have such an ability. They really did not know about this before. Dong Zhang calmed down, looked at Mu Tianyang and asked, Did Longchen say who it was? No. But before he left, he said one sentence, and told us not to go to the battlefield. From this, I judged that our old enemy should be hiding somewhere on the battlefield now. At this point, Mu Tianyang looked at Mu Qing and continued, This is also Mu Qing's purpose. She wants to use you to lure these people out. When Dong Zhengyang heard this, he turned to look at Mu Qing and said disappointedly, In any case, I saved your life in the Great Qin Empire back then. Is this how you repay me? Mu Qing lowered her head, extremely ashamed. I know you're a ruthless person, but I didn't expect you to be so ruthless. Dong Zhengyang sighed, extremely disappointed. It was really disappointing. The white-eyed wolf looked at Mu Qing, and the murderous intent in his eyes was undisguised. He said, Do you think that by keeping quiet, you can forget about this matter? Mu Qing trembled, and did not dare to look at the white-eyed wolf. I personally think that this kind of person should not be kept by our side. Pei Tianhong said, That's what I think too. I don't want someone to stab me in the back when the time comes. Wang Chongyuan snorted coldly. In an instant, Mu Qing became a rat crossing the street, and everyone wanted to beat her up. Mu Tianyang did not speak up for her, because Mu Qing's actions this time were indeed too much. Although he was also very tempted, he would never plot against Dong Zhengyang. Just as Dong Zhengyang said, if it were not for Dong Zhengyang's help back then, he would have died in the hands of Qin Feiyang. He could hate Qin Feiyang, but Dong Zhengyang had to be grateful. This was his principle. If he did not even have principles, was he worthy of being human? Then kill her. Although it's a pity, it's better than harming us in the future. The white-eyed wolf said, and a wisp of law power appeared. No. Mu Qing quivered and finally could not continue to be silent. She raised her head and looked at the white-eyed wolf, shouting. But the white-eyed wolf turned a deaf ear to her. But at this time, Dong Zhengyang sighed softly, raised his hand to stop the white-eyed wolf and said, Keep him. The white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. There was something wrong with this person's brain. The other party had schemed against him, and he was pleading for mercy for the other party? To be exact, he can't die. Because he has the all-seeing eye. He must be in the future. As for today's matter, I am also the biggest victim, but for the sake of the overall situation, I choose to forgive him. Even I have forgiven him, so you should not pursue it anymore. Dong Zhengyang gave the white-eyed wolf a forced smile. Obviously, it was not his intention. Are you sure? The white-eyed wolf frowned. He was very displeased. The all-seeing eye, the strongest fighting soul in his opinion, was nothing at all. I'm sure. Dong Zhengyang nodded. The white-eyed wolf took a deep breath, looked at Mu Qing and snorted. Did you see how others treated you? Don't you feel ashamed? I'm so thick-skinned, but I can't help but feel embarrassed for you. Mu Qing endured the humiliation and did not even dare to breathe loudly. Dong Zhengyang also looked at Mu Qing and said, But there is a condition. You have to make a blood oath. It's not too long ago, but at least before you get through that disaster, you can't plot against us behind our backs. In other words, you have to be of one mind with us. Disaster, the white-eyed wolf murmured. It was hard not to take this word seriously when it came from Dong Zhengyang's mouth again. Could it be that this so-called calamity really existed? But suddenly, he looked at Mu Qing again, who was still pretending to be silent. He immediately slammed the table and said angrily, Didn't you hear what Dong Zhengyang said? Do you really want to die? Let me tell you, I don't care about any disaster. If you really want to die, I'll fulfill your wish right now. Mu Qing's body and mind trembled. She hurriedly looked at Dong Zhengyang and nodded, All right, I agree. Who didn't know the white-eyed wolf's character? Not to mention an unknown disaster, even if the sky collapsed now, he would still do what he had to do. He made a prompt decision. He made a blood oath. The originally bright and sunny sky was instantly covered in a blood-red cloud, and the entire city instantly fell into chaos. On the streets, everyone raised their heads and looked at the sky with surprise and bewilderment. Swoosh! In a short while, an oath seal fell and disappeared from Tianyue restaurant. The blood cloud came quickly and left quickly. Chapter 3998. At the same time, Yueqing also noticed that something was amiss and immediately came out to check. In the end, she discovered that the place where the seal had disappeared was the private room where Qin Feiyang and the others were. What's going on? With a face full of doubt, she walked to the front of the room and knocked on the door. Come in. White-eyed Wolf's voice sounded from inside. Yueqing pushed the door open and entered. She immediately sensed that the atmosphere in the room was not right. There were wine jars everywhere on the floor. The room was filled with the smell of alcohol. However, no one looked drunk at all. Moreover, everyone was sitting on the chairs. Only Mu Qing stood beside Mu Tianyang with her head lowered, as if she had done something wrong. Brother Wolf, are you all right? Yueqing looked at White-eyed Wolf and asked. No. Get someone to clean up this place, White-eyed Wolf said. All right. I'll arrange it right away. Yueqing nodded and turned to leave quickly. Let's go to the tea room. White-eyed Wolf stood up and walked into the tea room. Devil Ancestor and the others followed. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and go over. You must perform well next. Mu Tianyang glared at Mu Qing and quickly entered the tea room. Mu Qing looked at White-eyed Wolf who was sitting in the tea room and could only brace herself and walk in. Are you afraid now? What were you doing earlier? White-eyed Wolf took out a jar of unparalleled divine wine, coldly looked at Mu Qing, and then started to drink it. Pei Tianhong and the others sat at the side, not making a sound. Mu Qing was in a rather awkward situation. She could neither stand nor sit. Dong dong. This time, there was a knock on the door. Come in. Wang Chongyuan looked at the door. Yueqing brought a few waiters in and ordered. Hurry up and tidy up. Yes. A few waiters responded. Some tidied up the table. Some tidied up the floor. Some tidied up the wine jars. Yueqing entered the tea room and looked at Mu Qing who was standing at the side. She walked to the tea table and smiled. I'll make you a pot of tea to wake you up. She squatted beside the tea table and cleaned the teapot and tea set. The atmosphere at the scene was quite depressing. Suddenly, Devil Ancestor opened the topic and looked at Yueqing. Yueqing stared blankly for a moment before nodding with a smile. That's right, don't you know? The Devil Ancestor smiled in praise. This is all thanks to Big Brother Qin. Yueqing quickly waved her hands. Why did he like to be so calculative? Devil Ancestor shook his head and smiled. Is Thousand Mountain City's Heavenly Joy Building also opened by you? Thousand Mountain City? Yueqing was taken aback. It's the Thousand Mountain City of the Northern Continent. Devil Ancestor said. The Thousand Mountain City of the Northern Continent. Yueqing was stunned for a moment. After thinking carefully for a moment she smiled and said, I opened it but I rarely go there. After all, Thousand Mountain City is just a small city. There's a little guy called Li Si in Thousand Mountain City's Heavenly Joy Building. This person is not bad. If there's a chance we can focus on training him. Devil Ancestor smiled. Is that so? Yueqing was surprised. Back then in Thousand Mountain City, he helped us a lot. A very clever young man. Devil Ancestor smiled slightly. Yueqing thought for a moment and asked, is this matter you're talking about when Ryuko and Jiang Yunshuang tried to assassinate you? Yes. Devil Ancestor nodded. Yueqing smiled and nodded. Alright, I'll go meet this Li Si when I'm free and see if he's really as clever as you said. Very soon. A few servants cleaned the room until it was spick and span. When faced with a clean and tidy environment, one's mood would be much better. Then you guys chat first. I'm going to get busy. Yueqing poured the tea and stood up. Sorry to trouble you. Devil Ancestor smiled. Yueqing smiled and quickly left the room. She turned around and closed the door. She lowered her head and pondered for a moment before taking out the divine voice transmission stone. Buzz. Soon. A figure appeared. It was Yi Miao. Miao Miao, where are you? Yueqing asked with a smile. The northern continent. What's wrong? Meow Meow smiled. That's good. Make a trip to Thousand Mountain City's Heavenly Joy Building and find a worker called Li Si. Investigate his identity. If there's no problem, send him to Cloud Ocean City. Yueqing said. What do you mean? Meow was puzzled. We'll talk about it when we meet. Yueqing smiled. All right. Meow nodded. In the private room, Mu Tianyang drank a mouthful of tea and looked at everyone helplessly. Let's talk. The atmosphere is a little depressing. What should we talk about? White-eyed Wolf glanced at Mu Tianyang and said, although you haven't taken action, your heart is hesitating. To us you seem to be a hidden danger. Mu Tianyang laughed dryly. White-eyed Wolf rolled his eyes and put down the wine jar. Longchan, that kid is very dishonest. It's impolite not to reciprocate. Think about it. What good ideas do you have to let him have a taste of his own medicine? This? Pei Tianhong and the others looked at each other. They really didn't have any ideas, because Longchan was too strong. He was strong enough to destroy all schemes. How about this? Demon Ancestor thought for a while and looked at White-eyed Wolf. Let Mu Qing and Mu Tianyang pretend to agree to Longchen's request. This way we can get the ultimate meaning of two supreme laws from him. Pei Tianhong and the others heard this and their eyes lit up. Dong Zhenyang thought for a while and looked at Demon Ancestor. If that's the case, why don't we go together? We can also get the inheritance of 4 supreme laws. Sure. Demon Ancestor nodded. Sure my ass. Do you think Longchan is stupid? White-eyed Wolf was speechless. Even Ryuko knew that they had to make a blood oath before they were willing to take out the inheritance, let alone someone as smart as Longchan. If there was a way to break the blood oath, then the problem would be solved. If we really have to make a blood oath, it will be difficult. Demon Ancestor thought for a while and nodded. So this method won't work at all. Instead of doing these useless things, why don't we just go and settle the score with him? White-eyed Wolf laughed. With his personality, even if you go and denounce him, he might not care about you. Demon Ancestor shook his head. White-eyed Wolf frowned and looked at Demon Ancestor and Mu Tianyang. He asked, did Snow and Bloodblade tell you about the blood oath? Is there a way to break it? Basically no. But in my opinion, no matter what it is in this world, as long as you have power that surpasses the limit, you can break it with force. Demon Ancestor said. Although you're right, who among us has the power to break the blood oath? White-eyed Wolf was helpless. Even a sovereign divine weapon could not do it, let alone a body of flesh and blood. What about frenzy? Dong Zhenyang suddenly clapped his hands and said. He has the root of all evil. Isn't that an ultimate power? I'm afraid it won't work. After all, we're talking about power that surpasses the limit. Besides, if frenzy can do it, then the God race can definitely do it too. If the God race can really do it, then the master of the divine kingdom won't care about the blood oath. White-eyed Wolf shook his head. Dong Zhenyang shook his head regretfully and said, then it seems that we really can't set a trap for Longchan. Don't be discouraged. This is just our guess. Perhaps Longchan didn't even think about the blood oath. Second Commander looked at everyone and laughed. White-eyed Wolf heard this and looked at Demon Ancestor and the others. He asked, do you believe it? Demon Ancestor and the others shook their heads and laughed. Second Commander still didn't understand Longchan. Because if he did, he definitely wouldn't say such naive words. White-eyed Wolf took a deep breath and waved his hand. Let's put Longchan's matter aside for now. Let's talk about your old enemy first. Now that it's clear, we should start planning. Okay. Dong Zhenyang nodded. White-eyed Wolf smiled mockingly and turned to look at Mu Qing. Actually, your idea is really good. Let one of them be the bait, and the other 2 hide in the dark. Mu Qing smiled awkwardly. Why did it sound so ironic? I'm really not joking with you. But this time the bait has to be changed to you. White-eyed Wolf bared his teeth. What? Mu Qing's eyes trembled. To be the bait was to risk one's life. You know there's danger, so you're scared? Then for Dong Zhenyang there's no danger. Don't say that we're not moral. You reap what you sow. White-eyed Wolf snorted coldly. Mu Tianyang comforted him. Are you okay? We'll do our best to protect your safety. Mu Qing felt bitter in his heart. Now did he still have the right to say no? At this moment it was too late for regrets. He was really stupid. Why did he scheme against Dong Zhengyang? Now not only did Dong Zhengyang not manage to scheme against him, but he also dragged him into the water. This was the consequence of his own sins. Demon Ancestor said. But now we can't take action. That's right. Because once the strongest war soul appears, it will inevitably lead to a bloody storm. With our strength, we can't face the geniuses of the divine kingdom. When the time comes, the older generation of the Scandinavian nation might even intervene. So we have to wait for the young master to come out. Pei Tianhong nodded. Hearing Pei Tianhong's analysis, everyone felt that it made sense. Because this wasn't a small matter. It could be said that the strongest war soul was more important than anything else. If Mu Qing and the other two's war souls were exposed, the older generation of the divine kingdom might not hesitate to pay any price. At that time, if Qin Feiyang wasn't there, they had no chance of winning at all. Not to mention that Frenzy was also in seclusion now. Okay. Anyway, the people of the divine kingdom won't give up easily if they don't find their old enemy. Let's wait for little Qin Zi to come out. White-Eyed Wolf nodded. This matter was too important, and he didn't dare to play around. But how long will it take for the young master to come out? When he comes out, how strong will the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death be? Wang Chongyuan whispered. Hearing this, everyone's eyes were full of anticipation. The ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. They didn't know if the divine kingdom had it, but there was only one person in the Sky Cloud realm. Chapter 3999. Next, the demon ancestor brought Pei Tianhong and the others to the battlefield. Mu Qing, Mu Tianyang, and Dong Zhengyang followed the white-eyed wolf into the demon palace to cultivate in seclusion. In short, now that Qin Feiyang had not come out of seclusion, the three of them would definitely not appear on the battlefield. However, there was a problem that the white-eyed wolf had been pondering about. How could he set a trap for Long Chun? This time Long Chun had schemed against them behind their backs, which made the white-eyed wolf extremely unhappy. If he did not get back at them, he would panic. He had thought of sending a voice transmission to Qin Feiyang, because Qin Feiyang was smart. But after thinking about it, it was better not to disturb Qin Feiyang now. As for the demon ancestor, when he returned to the battlefield, he would directly start his winning streak. Whether it was the humans of the divine kingdom or the gods of the divine kingdom, they were no match for him. But, unless it was a critical moment, he would not activate the Eye of Despair. This friendly match was important to gain experience. He also wanted to comprehend the ultimate meaning of the strongest law, so that he could truly compete with Ryuko and the others. So while he was training, he was also humbly asking the white-eyed wolf for advice. The strongest laws that he had mastered were the time law and the death law. Just nice. The white-eyed wolf had already mastered the ultimate meaning of these two strongest laws. Similarly, although the white-eyed wolf was usually very arrogant, as long as you sincerely looked for him, he would not put on airs and make things difficult for you. So to the demon ancestor, the white-eyed wolf was now like a teacher. He was training in battle while asking the white-eyed wolf for advice. His comprehension of the two strongest laws was getting deeper and deeper day by day. Dong Zhengyang and Mu Tianyang naturally would not miss such a good opportunity. After all, they were already in seclusion together. On the other hand, although Mu Qing was with the white-eyed wolf, she could not bring herself to look for the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf naturally couldn't be bothered with him. Since you took the initiative to come here, I will be kind and teach you. If you don't come, I can't ask for anything more. I can even hide in peace. Madman was also in seclusion. On the other hand, the place where he cultivated in seclusion was filled with the energy of death at all times, and it affected an area of a few hundred kilometers. Any divine dragon that approached this place would have their life force plundered by the power of death. As such, over time, the place where Madman was in seclusion became a forbidden area in the dragon lair. Almost no one dared to step into it. Everyone in the dragons were furious about this. Wasn't this akin to the dove taking over the magpie's nest? Day after day, year after year. Several decades passed. Shen Village. After decades of development, it had become the most powerful village in the area. The reason was, of course, Qin Feiyang. Almost all the younger generation in the village grew up under the guidance of Qin Feiyang. Even many of the older generation had been reborn under the guidance of Qin Feiyang and displayed outstanding talent. To the Chun family village, Qin Feiyang was no longer just a member of the village. He was also a highly respected old man that everyone respected. That's right. The current Qin Feiyang was already an old man. His long hair was as white as snow. His originally strong body was now as thin as firewood, and his face was full of wrinkles. He looked like an old man with one foot in the grave. The people in the village were puzzled when they saw the changes in Qin Feiyang. However, after Shun Mulan told them, they knew that Qin Feiyang was also nearing the end of his life. When Shun Dazhuang and Shun Xiaojia first received this news, it was like a bolt from the blue. Because in their hearts they respected Qin Feiyang very much. Especially Shun Xiaojia and the snotty baby. They were watched by Qin Feiyang as they grew up. So when they received this news, they immediately went to look for treasures to prolong Qin Feiyang's life. However, when Qin Feiyang received this news, he asked Shun Dazhuang to stop a group of people halfway. The reason was, he didn't want everyone to waste time. If he really had the heart, he would accompany him for the rest of his life. Early in the morning, Shun Dazhuang and Shun Xiaojia appeared outside Qin Feiyang's door early in the morning as usual. This was what they had to do every day. No one forced them. They voluntarily came to take care of Qin Feiyang. However, this time they found that Qin Feiyang was different from usual. His life force was extremely weak. Brother Gu Feng. Shun Xiaojia immediately ran up and grabbed Qin Feiyang's old and withered hand. She couldn't help but cry. Shun Dazhuang walked to the bedside and silently looked at Qin Feiyang. His eyes were also a little moist. After all, he was a man. He was stronger and kept all the grief in his heart. What are you crying for? Qin Feiyang said hoarsely, intermittently. He didn't even have the strength to speak. I'm not crying. Shun Xiaojia shook her head. Qin Feiyang raised his trembling hand, wiped away Shun Xiaojia's tears and laughed. You're not crying, what is this? I really didn't. Shun Xiaojia turned her head and looked at Shun Dazhuang. Her eyes were filled with despair, as if she was saying, Brother Dazhuang, quickly help Brother Gu Feng. Shun Dazhuang also turned his head and quietly wiped away his tears. He leaned over and looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile. Big Brother Gu Feng, where do you want to go today? Today? Qin Feiyang looked at the roof, pondered for a long time and laughed. Today? I don't want to go anywhere. Let's go to the village entrance to bask in the sun. All right. Shun Dazhuang nodded, looked at Shun Xiaojia and said, Xiaojia, make way first. I'll help Big Brother Gu Feng up. I'll do it myself. Shun Xiaojia carefully supported Qin Feiyang's back. But Qin Feiyang was so weak that he didn't even have the strength to get up. At this moment, he had really reached his limit. His entire body was filled with an aura of death. Let me do it. Shun Dazhuang gently pushed Shun Xiaojia away, bent down and picked up Qin Feiyang. Looking at Shun Xiaojia who was crying beside him, he sent a sound transmission. Don't cry, Big Brother Gu Feng doesn't want to see others cry in front of him. Hurry up and prepare a recliner. All right. Shun Xiaojia quickly nodded, turned around and ran out. I'm sorry for making you take care of a lonely old man like me. Qin Feiyang smiled apologetically. What are you talking about? I've already said that you're my brother. Isn't it my duty to take care of you? Shun Dazhuang held back his sobs, turned around and walked out of the room. Although it was strenuous for Qin Feiyang to even move, the inside of this small house was very clean. Not a speck of dust could be found. This was all thanks to Shun Dazhuang and Shun Xiaojia. They had to clean the house once a day to keep it clean and tidy. Shun Xiaojia had already placed a recliner at the entrance of the village. This recliner was made of bamboo strips, and there was a layer of soft cushion on it. Shun Xiaojia stood in front of the recliner, looking at Qin Feiyang who was in Shun Dazhuang's arms, and couldn't help but tear up. At this moment, some more people came out of their houses. When they saw this scene, their faces immediately changed, and they all put down what they were doing and surrounded Shun Dazhuang. Dazhuang, a woman said worriedly. But before she could finish her sentence, Dazhuang gave her a look, indicating for her to be quiet. The woman quickly shut her mouth and looked down at Qin Feiyang. She even lowered her breathing to the lowest, for fear of startling Qin Feiyang. Dazhuang carried Qin Feiyang and continued to walk to the entrance of the village. The woman looked at the group of people next to her and sighed. It seems that Brother Gufeng can't make it. Go and tell everyone to come out quickly. I'll go and find the village chief. Okay. They nodded and their faces were full of sadness. Then they turned around and knocked on the door of each house. What? When the woman found Shen Mulan's house and told Shen Mulan about Qin Feiyang's situation, Shen Mulan's face changed drastically. He hurriedly ran to the entrance of the village without even putting on his coat. At this moment, many people had already come out of their houses. Everyone's expression was extremely pained. Good people don't live long, but disasters last 1,000 years. This sentence is really true. Yes, in the past few decades, if not for Brother Gufeng's careful teaching, how could the young people in our village be so outstanding? And Brother Gufeng, although he is very strong, he is kind and nice. He is also very respectful to us old people. How could such an outstanding person fall to this point? This is because the heavens are jealous of talents. Everyone gathered together and ran to the entrance of the village while discussing. At the entrance of the village, Dazhuang gently put Qin Feiyang on the reclining chair. And then he silently retreated to the side, quietly looking at Qin Feiyang. Brother Gufeng, do you want to drink water? Shen Xiaojia squatted on the ground, gently holding Qin Feiyang's hand and asked. No need. Qin Feiyang shook his head. His voice seemed particularly weak, and then he slowly looked up at the sky. At this moment, the sun was rising in the sky, and the sun shone on the earth. Everything gradually recovered, but his life aura was getting weaker and weaker. However, he did not have any fear. On the contrary, a smile appeared on his face. Shen Xiaojia and Dazhuang could not help but follow Qin Feiyang's gaze and look at the rising sun on the horizon. The scenes of getting along with each other for the past few decades involuntarily appeared in their minds. In the end, they discovered that they were all beautiful memories. No matter when, this man's face was filled with a happy smile. Whether it was to himself or to others, there had never been a painful side to him. Even now, he did not have any fear in the face of death. Had he already seen through life and death? In this world, was there really nothing he was attached to? Shen Xiaojia retracted her gaze, looked at Qin Feiyang and said softly, Brother Gufeng, whether it is in the past or in the future, you will never be alone. We will always be with you. Yes, we are all your family. Shen Mulan walked over and squatted on the other side, holding Qin Feiyang's hand, enduring the sadness in his heart, and said, Brother Gufeng, we will always be with you until the last moment. Thank you. Qin Feiyang's face revealed a smile. Brother Gufeng, don't talk, have a good rest. A middle-aged couple looked at Qin Feiyang and said softly. It was Shen Xiaojia's parents. But before they finished speaking, the two of them wished they could slap themselves in the face. What were they saying? His life was about to reach the last moment. What was there to rest for? Wasn't this a curse in disguise? Brother Gufeng, I'm sorry. The two of them hurriedly apologized. Qin Feiyang slowly raised his hand and gently waved it, indicating that it was okay. Chapter 4000. Actually, I want to thank you all, Qin Feiyang said in a hoarse voice. Shen Mulan hurriedly said, Why are you saying all this? We are family. Qin Feiyang waved his hand with great effort. Seeing this, Shen Xiaojia looked at Shen Mulan and sighed. Grandpa Village Chief, just let Brother Gufeng speak. Sigh. Shen Mulan sighed and retreated to the side. The others also quieted down and quietly looked at Qin Feiyang. I want to thank you all. Thank you all for taking care of me all these years, especially Dazhuang and Xiaojia, these two children. If it were any other young man seeing me like this, they would have long run away. But they have always been by my side. This also proves that my eyesight. Indeed, I did not misjudge you. You all must work hard, I believe. As Qin Feiyang said this, he waved at Dazhuang. Dazhuang hurriedly walked over and squatted on the ground. Even he was already tearing up. Qin Feiyang grabbed Dazhuang's hand with one hand and Shen Xiaojia's hand with the other. He smiled and said, I believe. Your kindness will definitely bring you good luck. And? Shen Xiaojia nodded, holding back her tears. I still have to thank you all. Let me spend all these years in the village without any worries. You might not understand, but these few decades, what I saw, heard, and felt here is very important to me. It was you all who allowed me to have a deeper understanding of the world. It was also you all who allowed me to complete the last step. Thank you all, thank you everyone, thank you. When he said the last word of thanks, everyone could no longer hear Qin Feiyang's voice. Moreover, Shen Dazhuang and Shen Xiaojia could feel that Qin Feiyang's hand was gradually turning cold. Please, don't cry. Let me see the last moment of the sun's rise, Qin Feiyang muttered, looking at the sun in the sky, his face still maintaining that smile, as if everything was frozen there, without any changes. Shen Xiaojia's body trembled as her tears flowed uncontrollably. However, she did not cry out loud. She turned her head and silently looked at the rising sun. Finally, the sun had risen completely, and all living things had awakened. It was also at this moment Qin Feiyang slowly closed his eyes, but the smile on his face never disappeared. Big brother Gufeng, Shen Xiaojia and Luo Ruoxin immediately felt Qin Feiyang's pulse stop beating. Tears flowed down their cheeks continuously. Brother Ancient Wind, the sun has already risen, a middle-aged man spoke. However, when he looked at Qin Feiyang, he immediately lost control of his emotions. The others also finally realized that Qin Feiyang was no longer breathing, and they all silently shed tears. At this moment, no one spoke again, and the entire village fell into a deathly silence. At the same time, Black Tortoise World. A group of people also gathered in the Devil's Land. Mermaid Princess and Fire Lotus stood at the front. Little Wimp was there as well. Next was Fire Dance, the five-clawed golden dragon, the white jade Qilin, the big black wolf, the sword sovereign Xia Yuan, and the others. Behind them, the 6,000 dark guards were all present. In short, everyone who lived in the Devil's Land was here at this moment. In the void in front of them there was a picture. The picture showed Qin Feiyang sitting at the entrance of the village. As early as when Shen Dazhuang and Shen Xiaojia entered Qin Feiyang's room, Little Wimp had already noticed Qin Feiyang's abnormality. Therefore, he descended to the Devil's Land and gathered everyone here. In other words, everyone had witnessed the entire process. Although they knew what Qin Feiyang was going to do, at this moment, seeing Qin Feiyang stop breathing, they couldn't help but shed tears. Especially Mermaid Princess. She needed the support of Fire Lotus beside her to stand firm. I can't just stand by and watch. Fire Luan, quickly send me out. Suddenly, Mermaid Princess grabbed Fire Lotus's arm, looking extremely anxious. Sister-in-law, calm down. You have to believe in Qin Dage. Seeing that, Fire Lotus hurriedly comforted her. He's already not breathing. No heartbeat. How can I still calm down? Fire Lotus, I beg you, quickly send me out. Regardless of success or failure, I will always guard him, the Mermaid Princess pleaded incessantly. Fire Lotus looked at Little Wimp. Little Wimp glanced at Mermaid Princess, and with a low sigh said, You go out with her. All right. Fire Lotus nodded, and immediately appeared in front of Qin Feiyang with Mermaid Princess. Who is it? Shen Dazhuang and the others were shocked, and immediately looked at the two of them. Don't be nervous. This is his wife. Fire Lotus looked at everyone and sighed. Wife. Everyone in the village immediately looked at Mermaid Princess in shock. Gufeng actually had a wife? And she was so beautiful. Why hadn't they heard him mention this before? At this moment, Mermaid Princess completely ignored the surrounding villagers and moved her feet, walking in front of Qin Feiyang. Seeing that, Shen Dazhuang nodded at Shen Xiaojia. Shen Xiaojia looked at Mermaid Princess suspiciously, but also let go of Qin Feiyang's cold hand, stood up and retreated to the side. Mermaid Princess squatted on the ground, grabbed Qin Feiyang's hand and muttered, Why do you have to do this? Is the ultimate profound of the law of life and death that important? A drop of tear fell on the back of Qin Feiyang's hand. In the next moment, Qin Feiyang's motionless body began to dissipate. What's going on? Shen Xiaojia and the others' expressions changed. Dezhuang even pushed Mermaid Princess away. Seeing that, Fire Lotus hurriedly went up to support Mermaid Princess. Brother Gufeng, Shen Xiaojia grabbed Qin Feiyang's hand, and her face was full of anxiety. She looked at Shen Dazhuang and asked, Brother Dazhuang, what's going on? Why is Brother Gufeng's body dissipating? De Zhuang looked at Qin Feiyang, whose entire body was dissipating, as if it had turned into a rain of light, and he couldn't stop it no matter how hard he tried. All of a sudden, he seemed to have transformed into an enraged beast, and turned to stare at Mermaid Princess, and said in a low voice, "What did you do to Brother Gufeng?" "I didn't." Mermaid Princess shook her head, and also looked at Qin Feiyang anxiously. She also didn't know what was going on. Why would his physical body start to dissipate all of a sudden? "You're not Brother Gufeng's wife, who are you? You didn't even let Brother Gufeng's body go. Do you still have any humanity?" Shen Xiaojia glared at Mermaid Princess. "You're wrongly accused. They're really husband and wife." Fire Lotus hurriedly explained. "I don't believe it, all of you leave." Shen Xiaojia pointed outside the village and roared. Mermaid Princess was extremely anxious. "Sister-in-law, let's retreat to the side first." "Don't be angry, they're also worried about Qindage. You have to believe in Qindage. He'll definitely be fine." Fire Lotus secretly transmitted her voice. "Sigh." Mermaid Princess sighed softly, and with Fire Lotus's help, she retreated over 10 meters, and looked at Qin Feiyang from afar, her eyes filled with worry. "Brother Gufeng, I won't let your body dissipate." Shen Xiaojia didn't care about the two anymore, and anxiously reached out to grab the rain of light, but she couldn't. The rain of light passed through her hands and floated in all directions. "Brother De Zhuang, quickly think of a solution." Shen Xiaojia looked at De Zhuang helplessly. De Zhuang didn't speak, and he looked at this scene in despair. How could he have a solution for this? In the blink of an eye. At this time, almost half of Qin Feiyang had dissipated, and there wasn't even a drop of blood, as if his entire body had been disintegrated by an invisible force. "Xiaojia, calm down." Looking at Shen Xiaojia's tear-filled face, her parents hurried to comfort her. If they wanted to stop it, they had to first figure out the reason, but this scene was completely beyond their understanding. Perhaps for Gufeng this was a good thing. 10 breaths passed. Qin Feiyang completely dissipated, turning into a rain of light that scattered between heaven and earth. But the Black Tortoise world was still there. The universe ring was still there. However, only these two things were still there. The other things, such as the laws, the divine arts, and even the clothes, all disappeared. It was as if all of this didn't exist in the first place. Even Mermaid Princess and Fire Lotus didn't know what was going on, let alone the people in the village. Chapter 4001. However, they didn't know. At this moment, Qin Feiyang was standing in a blood-red world. The sky was blood-red. The earth was blood-red. Even the void was filled with a bloody mist. Qin Feiyang was no stranger to this place. And this was also Qin Feiyang's destination. Because this was the hell that appeared when he entered the heavenly bell divine treasure, and fell into the illusion. Nothing had changed. Countless wandering souls were rushing towards the gate of hell in front of him. From time to time a blood-red lightning would fall from the sky. If the wandering souls in this world didn't enter the gate of hell, they would be obliterated by the blood-red lightning. He came here again. Qin Feiyang was no longer as desperate and fearful as last time. He took a step forward and walked towards the gate of hell. Soon, the gate of hell entered his sight, like a terrifying beast with its bloody mouth open, floating in front of him, waiting for him to take the initiative to send himself in. Qin Feiyang didn't stop and went straight into the gate of hell. Inside, it was also a blood-red world like a sea of blood. Crack. Boom. Compared to the outside, the lightning here was more concentrated and roaring in the sky. Any wandering soul that was struck by the lightning would howl miserably, as if they had been tortured. All the wandering souls would be constantly bombarded by the lightning, and every time they were struck, the shape of the wandering souls would become a little fainter. Qin Feiyang was no stranger to this. Because the last time he came here, he was constantly bombarded by lightning. The purpose of these lightning was to erase his memory. Qin Feiyang didn't avoid it. Even when the lightning struck him and caused him unparalleled pain, he did not let out a groan. And it didn't mean that he wasn't afraid of pain. It was that he could withstand it. However, his memory didn't disappear. No matter how many times the lightning struck him, his memory was still there. The last time he came here, he had personally experienced it. Every time he was struck by lightning, part of his memory would disappear. But Qin Feiyong wasn't surprised by this. He seemed to already know the reason. After an unknown period of time, another stone door appeared in front of him. It was 999 zhang tall, like a towering mountain standing at the end. However, it was different from the ferocious and terrifying Hell's Gate. This stone gate was pure white and radiated a divine radiance. Before he even got close, Qin Feiyong felt a warm feeling in his heart. On the stone door there were two large words, shining with boundless divine light. Samsara. That was right. This was the gate of reincarnation that Qin Feiyong had seen in the illusion last time. Everything was exactly the same as last time. However, last time, Qin Feiyong had reached this point and hadn't gone any further. This was because he had comprehended the law of life and death when he had seen the gate of reincarnation. After comprehending the law of life and death, he fused with the miniature version of the law of life and death and left this place. This time, he had come here to enter the door of reincarnation. From an outsider's point of view, this was simply courting death. Even Qin Feiyong himself did not dare to enter the gate of reincarnation the last time he came here, because at that time he had the same thought. Once he entered the gate of reincarnation, he would be reincarnated. But now he already knew. This gate of reincarnation wasn't the real reincarnation. The gate of hell wasn't the real hell either. These wandering souls weren't truly dead wandering souls. All of this was transformed by the will of the law of life and death's ultimate meaning. The gate of hell represented the destination of death. The gate of reincarnation represented the hope of life. In other words, this place was equivalent to a secret realm. Only those who had comprehended the law of life and death could enter. Someone might say, since this was the case, why didn't Qin Feiyong directly step into the gate of reincarnation? This way, he could directly grasp the ultimate meaning of the law of death? But in fact, this wasn't the case. Everything here was transformed by the will of the ultimate meaning. If back then, Qin Feiyong hadn't chosen to leave when he comprehended the law of life and death but insisted on stepping into the gate of reincarnation, he would have been destroyed. Because at that time, Qin Feiyong's comprehension of the law of life and death wasn't enough. He couldn't withstand the will of the ultimate meaning. Just like his memory. Back then, when he entered here, his memory disappeared because his comprehension of the law of life and death wasn't enough. But this time, his memory didn't disappear again. This was because his comprehension of the law of life and death had reached a perfect level. Therefore, the will here couldn't erase his memory. In short, if one's comprehension of the law of life and death wasn't thorough enough, then stepping into the gate of reincarnation would directly be obliterated by the will of the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. Moreover, without comprehending the true intention of the gate of reincarnation, no one dared to step into this gate. After all, no matter who it was, when they first saw the gate of reincarnation, they would definitely think of reincarnation. It would be too late to avoid it. Who would dare to take the initiative to enter? Therefore, although people who had comprehended the law of life and death could enter this secret realm twice, the second time must be on the premise that they had thoroughly comprehended the law of life and death. Qin Feiyong had lived in seclusion in the Shen family village for many years, and once again experienced the process of death, in order to perfect his comprehension of the law of life and death. Similarly, this was also what the Divine King of Chaos said, "Put yourself in death and fight to live." The gate of reincarnation seemed to be a dead end, but in fact this was a bright path. A moment later Qin Feiyong came in front of the gate of reincarnation. Although he was already very strong now, standing under the gate of reincarnation, he couldn't help but feel small. At the same time, at this moment in his heart there was some anticipation. Taking a deep breath, he didn't hesitate and stepped out of the gate of reincarnation. Immediately, a dazzling divine light shrouded him, making him unable to open his eyes. He closed his eyes and mentally prepared himself. Only then did he slowly open his eyes. A boundless world gradually came into view. Here there was an extremely strange scene. The world on the left was surging with waves of blood. The aura of death was monstrous, and countless ghosts were screaming, as if it was a real purgatory. The world on the right was full of vitality, mountains and rivers. Auspicious beasts galloped, as if it was a fairyland. Qin Feiyong could feel that this was also formed by the will of the law of life and death. The left represented death. The right represented life. Moreover, the will here was stronger than the world inside the gate of hell, and even he could feel a sense of oppression. There's still one last step. When this last step is completed, the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death will reappear in the world. Qin Feiyang murmured, took a step out, and landed in the middle of the two worlds. What he had to do now was to integrate the will here. As his body and mind relaxed, the power on both sides immediately turned into a torrent, continuously rushing towards him. So powerful. When the power of life and death drowned him, there was a tearing pain, and his consciousness almost collapsed. Yes, the current him was just a consciousness. If his consciousness collapsed, then even if he comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, he would still die here. Because his physical body and soul had already dissipated outside. I've already come this far, and you still want to erase me? Wishful thinking. All of you submit to me, he roared. A powerful will surged out from his body. This was his will, and it was enough to shake this world. Life and death, two different forces, constantly collided in his body, making him feel worse than death. But in the end, under the suppression of his will, the two forces merged into one. At the same time, outside, the Shun family village also underwent a drastic change. The rain of light that Qin Feiyang's physical body turned into did not disappear, and it was like specks of crystal light floating between heaven and earth. Just as he was integrating the will of the law of life and death, the rain of light floating between heaven and earth gradually emitted a vast aura. This change immediately alarmed everyone in the village, including the mermaid princess, Fire Lotus, and the little brat from the Black Tortoise world. Originally, they were still sad. But suddenly, the rain of light that Qin Feiyang's physical body turned into actually erupted with such a terrifying aura. This made them immediately turn their sadness into joy. Of course, this was only limited to the mermaid princess and the others, because they were experienced and knowledgeable, and they were extremely familiar with Qin Feiyang. They quickly identified that this aura was formed by Qin Feiyang's will. How could a dead person's will still exist? So, from this point they could determine that Qin Feiyang was not really dead. This rain of light was actually Qin Feiyang's undying will. However, the people of the Shun family village did not think of this. Previously, even Qin Feiyang turning into a rain of light was already beyond their understanding, let alone this magical scene. They all raised their heads, looking at the rain of light floating in the sky in shock. Sister-in-law, look. Suddenly, Fire Lotus seemed to have discovered something, and scanned the surrounding mountains and rivers. Mermaid Princess quickly looked, and saw that the surrounding mountains and rivers, countless flowers and trees, were emitting a faint green aura. This is the life energy of the plants. Mermaid Princess mastered the law of life, and could tell at a glance. What's going on? Why is their life energy being extracted? Fire Lotus was surprised. But soon, she knew the reason. She saw that the life energy was all rushing towards one direction, and that was the sky above the village. Not long after, the majestic life energy rushed into the sky above the village, gradually drowning the rain of light that Qin Feiyang turned into. Soon, Mermaid Princess and Fire Lotus discovered another shocking situation. The rain of light that Qin Feiyang's physical body turned into was actually absorbing the life energy. Did this mean that Qin Feiyang's will was actually extracting the life energy of the plants? Since his will was extracting the life energy of the plants, did it mean that he was being reborn? Thinking of this, whether it was Mermaid Princess or Fire Lotus, they could not help but cry tears of joy. This made the people of the Shun family village puzzled. What were they doing? At the same time, in the Black Tortoise realm, Little Wimp also saw the mystery and could not help but heave a sigh of relief. However, the situation outside was getting more and more intense. The flowers and trees near the village had almost all withered, and were spreading further away at an astonishing speed. But the strange thing was, the villagers standing at the entrance of the village, including Mermaid Princess and Fire Lotus, did not feel that the life energy in their bodies was being extracted. Even the life energy that gathered above the village even took the initiative to enter their bodies. Chapter 4002. This life energy far exceeded the divine life pill. The old people in the village were all becoming younger. The wrinkles on their old faces gradually disappeared, and their white hair turned black. Shen Mulan also became more and more energetic. The children's faces were also glowing with health. Moreover, this life energy seemed to contain a kind of good fortune. The potential of everyone in the village was stimulated. Boom! That moment, there were people constantly breaking through here. Shen Dezhuang directly soared to the perfect war god. He did not stop and was still soaring towards the perfect war god. Shen Xiaojia's cultivation also soared all the way to the warlord. Even those 4 or 5-year-old children also stepped onto the path of cultivation, erupting with terrifying potential. What's going on? Fire Lotus and Mermaid Princess looked at this scene in shock. This is the good fortune that Brother Gu Feng bestowed upon us. That's right. It must be related to Brother Gu Feng. Even if he died, he did not forget us. His heroic spirit will always exist to protect us and the village. The villagers' faces were covered in tears. Even though he had died, he did not leave. He was using his own way to protect everything here. No, this is indeed related to Fei Yang. It's not his heroic spirit that is protecting the village. This is Fei Yang's will. Mermaid Princess muttered. Yes. Qin Dage completed the last step here. This village has done him a favor, so he is repaying the people of this village. Fire Lotus nodded. The surrounding mountains and rivers had completely withered. But not only were the people in the village fine, but the nearby beasts were also fine. There was no sign of life force being drawn away. Only the life force of the plants was being drawn away. There were hundreds of villages of various sizes around the Shun family village. Soon, this scene also appeared in these villages. The essence of the plants rose into the air and rushed towards the Shun family village. But other than that, whether it was humans or beasts, they were not affected at all. Of course, the people of other villages could not enjoy the treatment of the Shun family village. What's going on? Many humans and beasts were chasing the life force and flying towards the Shun family village, wanting to find out what was going on. But no matter which direction they came from, when they were 10,000 miles away from the Shun family village, they were stopped by an invisible force and could not move forward. It seems to be the direction of the Shun family village. What happened in the Shun family village? Everyone was surprised. Farther away, there was a city. This was the city that Shen Dezhuang often. At this moment, the essence of the plants around the city was also drawn out and soared into the sky, gathering into a vast amount of life energy. It was like an angry wave, crazily surging in the direction of the Shun family village, shocking everyone in the city. This news quickly spread throughout the western continent. How? Go check. No. Old Chi, go and investigate this personally. When the Alliance Master of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance received the news, he immediately ordered the Deputy Alliance Master and the Hall Master of the Hall of the Exalted. The two of them immediately left the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and followed the life force all the way to the Shen family village. Thousands of miles away from the Shen family village, countless ferocious beasts and humans gathered. What's the situation? The Hall of the Exalted asked. We don't know. But the source seems to be the Shen family village. Someone said. The two looked up at the Shen family village. With their cultivation, they could see the situation above the Shen family village clearly from 10,000 miles away. Looking at the sea of life above the village, the two immediately got up in shock. But there was no one in the sky. The light rain that Qin Feiyang's body turned into had been completely submerged by the life energy. Even if it was not submerged, they did not know that the light rain was Qin Feiyang's body. However, they felt familiar with the will that filled the sky above the village. Why do I feel a bit like Qin Feiyang? The Hall of the Exalted was surprised. Don't talk nonsense. The vice leader glared at him. It's true. If you don't believe me, feel it carefully. The Hall of the Exalted said. The vice leader's eyelids twitched. He quickly calmed down and felt it carefully. Suddenly, his eyes trembled. This was really Qin Feiyang's aura. What was going on? Let's go and have a look. The vice leader was anxious and rushed toward the Shun family village. However, he was also blocked by Qin Feiyang's will. The vice leader was surprised. The Hall of the Exalted tried to step forward but could not step into the 10,000 miles range. It was as if the 10,000 miles around the Shun family village had become a forbidden area that could not be set foot. Even they can't get close? The surrounding humans and beasts looked at this scene and could not help but show a trace of shock. These were the two giants of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. The most powerful existence in the Western continent could not enter the Shun family village. What was happening in the Shun family village? Don't worry. Looking at the vice leader who was anxious, the Hall of the Exalted comforted him and then looked down at the people of the Shun family village. Suddenly, his eyes were locked on the backs of Fire Lotus and the Mermaid Princess. But because he could only see their backs, he could not be sure if it was the two of them. Fire Lotus? He called out tentatively. Fire Lotus heard the voice and could not help but be stunned. She turned her head and looked in the direction of the voice. Mermaid Princess and the people in the village also heard the voice of the Hall of the Exalted Leader, and turned their heads to look. However, the people of the Shun family village did not have enough cultivation, and could not see the situation 10,000 miles away. But Mermaid Princess and Fire Lotus could see it clearly. It was not until this time that they realized that they had attracted so many creatures. These are the two girls. The Hall of the Exalted Leader was refreshed. He had entered the Black Tortoise realm many times. Of course, he knew Fire Lotus and Mermaid Princess. Besides, they were also Qin Feiyang's wife and sister. The vice leader was also very happy and shouted, "What's going on?" Mermaid Princess and Fire Lotus looked at each other and looked at the sky above the village. They turned and cut through the sky and landed on the vice leader and Fire Lotus like lightning. Who are they? Their aura is so strong. And they are both so beautiful. The creatures around looked at the two of them in surprise. Master. Elder Qi. Mermaid Princess looked at the vice leader and Fire Lotus. What? She called the vice leader master? Everyone was stunned. In fact, Mermaid Princess called Qin Feiyang. The vice leader was Qin Feiyang's master. So when Mermaid Princess met the vice leader, she also called him master. Yes. The vice leader nodded and asked anxiously, "What's going on?" "It's a long story." Mermaid Princess sighed and secretly told them about Qin Feiyang's situation in detail. What? Hearing this, the two of them immediately looked up at the sky above the Shun family village. It turned out that all this was because of Qin Feiyang. Did he have to pay such a high price to comprehend the ultimate meaning of the law of life? Is he really not dead? Don't lie to us. The Hall Master of the Hall of the Exalted looked at the two of them with a worried expression. I'm not lying to you. But now we're actually very worried. After all, there has never been a precedent for the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. No one knows what the result will be. Fire Lotus shook her head. Hearing this, the vice leader and the Hall Master of the Hall of the Exalted looked even more worried. The vice leader sighed and said, "Take me to the village. I want to see his rebirth with my own eyes. Otherwise, I'll be restless if I go back to the Rogue Cultivator Alliance." Can't you go to the village? Mermaid Princess was stunned. We're blocked by this boy's will. The Hall Master of the Hall of the Exalted smiled bitterly. Huh. Mermaid Princess and Fire Lotus looked at each other in surprise. They had been in the village all this time and did not know about this. Wait a minute. Could it be that even they could not go to the Shun family village now? The two of them hurriedly stepped forward. In the end, they were really blocked by this will. The expressions of the two men froze. The vice leader and the Hall Master's expressions suddenly became interesting. They did not say anything, but even their wife and sister were blocked outside? However, weren't they still in the Shun family village? Why couldn't they go in again after coming out? It seems that the will left by Qin Dage does not have consciousness. He may have expected that it would cause a great sensation, so he left this will to prevent creatures from entering the Shun family village. Fire Lotus secretly said, "Yes." Mermaid Princess nodded. In other words, the will left by Qin Feiyang did not recognize who they were. They could stay in the Shun family village before because they had already appeared in the village before Qin Feiyang's will appeared. So they were not excluded. But now, they left the Shun family village and appeared thousands of miles away, so they would naturally be excluded. If the people of the Shun family village left now, it would be the same. because this will protected the entire Shen family village, not a single person. It was simple. Now within thousands of miles of the Shen family village, one could only leave but not enter. What should we do now? Are we just going to stand here and worry? The deputy leader asked. That's the only way. Mermaid Princess smiled bitterly. If she had known, she would not have left the Shen family village. Alas! The Vice Alliance Master sighed and transmitted his voice, Old Chi, tell the Alliance Master and the others not to worry too much. Okay. The Hall Master of the Hall of the Exalted nodded and took out the Divine Sound Stone. Fire Lotus saw this and quickly said secretly, don't send messages here, go to the Divine Space item. What? The Hall Master of the Exalted was suspicious. There are too many people here. If they know about the situation here, they will definitely spread it out. When the Divine Kingdom knows about it, they will definitely come to make trouble. Maybe at that time it will affect Qin Deji's rebirth. Fire Lotus secretly said with a serious face. The Hall Master of the Hall of the Exalted heard this and could not help but shudder. If the geniuses of the Divine Kingdom really came to make trouble, the consequences would be unimaginable. Immediately, he entered the Divine Space item. He sent a message to the leader, telling him the details of the Shen family village and telling him to block the news. Chapter 4003. 1 day, 2 days. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. In half a month, this situation had spread to the entire Western continent. That's right. The current Western continent had become a desolate continent. Except for humans and beasts, all the flowers and trees had withered. Heaven and earth were filled with death aura. With such a big movement, the news couldn't be suppressed at all. The Alliance Master had done his best, but he was powerless. Soon, the news of the Western continent spread to the Eastern continent, Southern continent, and Northern continent. Even the forbidden areas. Countless creatures poured into the Western continent to see what was going on. Among them were Elder Hua, He Zhongqian, and the leaders of the Heavenly Palace. There were also giants like the Feather Emperor, the Blood Ancestor, and the Little Rabbit. When they found out about the situation in the Shen family village, they immediately ordered to do their best to suppress the news. The Mermaid Princess and Fire Lotus were both worried. They thought that this situation wouldn't spread too far, and that they could hide it from the world. However, they didn't expect the situation to develop to this point. Sure enough, finally, this news spread to the battlefield in the land of buried gods. What? Such an abnormality happened in the Western continent? Send someone to investigate? Such a big matter, there must be something strange. Late at night, the core area. Ryuko looked at Zhang Yunshuang and said in a deep voice. Okay. Zhang Yunshuang nodded and was about to turn and leave. But suddenly, Longzi stopped Zhang Yunshuang and said with a frown, let Wang Feng, Zhang Chan, and the others go. They are more familiar with the Sky Cloud realm, and are strong enough to deal with any sudden changes. However, they must change their appearances and let Zhang Chan and the others hide their god race imprints. Okay. Zhang Yunshuang waved his hand and 3 figures appeared. It was the blue-haired youth Wang Feng, Jing Chan, and Jiang Xing. Sure enough, they didn't return to the Divine Kingdom. They had been hiding in Zhang Yunshuang's spatial treasure. With a few words from Zhang Yunshuang, the 3 immediately changed their appearances, hid their identities, and secretly went to the Western continent. At the same time, Qi Xiaoyun and Long Chan also received the news. What's going on now? The 3 of them were puzzled. Teacher, I'll have to trouble you to personally investigate. Qi Xiaoyun looked at the white-bearded old man and asked. Qin I'll have to trouble you this time. Long Chun looked at Long Qin and said. The 2 of them immediately set off for the Western continent. The moment they entered the Western continent, both Wang Feng's group and Long Qin's group could not help but feel shocked. Everywhere he passed was filled with a deathly aura, and it was as if he'd arrived at a purgatory of death. What exactly happened? Needless to say, the methods of these people need not be mentioned. Soon they found out that the root of the problem came from a place called the Shen family village, so they all went to the Shen family village. When they rushed over, they discovered that the big shots of the various forces in the Sky Cloud realm, including the Feather Emperor, were all gathered here. Strange. Longchen's and Whitebeard didn't hide their identities. They directly appeared beside the Feather Emperor and the others and asked in surprise, "What's going on?" The Feather Emperor and the others frowned as they looked at the two of them. If even the dragons and the Feng people had received the news, then the land of buried gods must have known as well. "No. We must be prepared. Girl, quickly send a message to the white-eyed wolf and frenzied. Also, the demon ancestor must come and help us." The Feather Emperor looked at the mermaid princess and Fire Lotus. Okay. The two of them nodded. Seeing that no one answered him, Longchen raised his head and scanned the sky above the Shun family village. A trace of surprise gradually appeared in his eyes. Although he didn't see Qin Feiyang, he seemed to sense Qin Feiyang's aura. Could it be that all of this was related to Qin Feiyang? The white-bearded old man in Wang Feng's group, who had disguised themselves and hid in the crowd, also noticed this. They were extremely surprised. "Lord Feather Emperor, what's going on?" Wang Feng suppressed his cultivation and disguised himself as an old man in his 70s or 80s. He looked at the Feather Emperor and asked, "Nothing." The Feather Emperor shook his head. Hearing this, Wang Feng furrowed his brows subtly. Why would there be such a big commotion if there was nothing? Moreover, all of you are gathered here. Who are you ignoring? Something big must have happened. Wait a minute. Could it be that Qin Feiyang is now at the critical moment of comprehending the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death? All these years they had been guessing where Qin Feiyang was. They had also been investigating Qin Feiyang's whereabouts. They had also thought about where Qin Feiyang might be hiding and comprehending the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. So now he couldn't help but think of this point. Because the situation was too strange. The essence of the entire Western mainland had been extracted by Qin Feiyang. Apart from the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, he couldn't think of any other reason. Hurry up and inform Ryuko and the Divine Lady. Wang Feng said calmly through voice transmission. Okay. Jiang Chun and the Divine Lady replied and left quietly. But at the same time Longchen glanced at Wang Feng. A wisp of strange light could be vaguely seen in her eyes. In fact, she had secretly activated her battle soul to eavesdrop on the voice transmission of the Feather Emperor and the others. She didn't expect to hear this conversation. Inform Ryuko and the Divine Lady. In that case, the old man who had asked the Feather Emperor earlier was definitely someone from the Divine Kingdom in disguise. However, she didn't say anything. She glanced at the Feather Emperor and the others before leaving silently. Seeing Longchen leave, the old man with the white beard also turned and left. Obviously, he was going to inform Qi Xiaoyun. Brother, I've already investigated clearly. The situation in the Western mainland is caused by Qin Feiyang. Not far away. In the mountains. Longchen looked at Longchen's shadow and said. Longchen said in realization, so it's this guy. No wonder Lunatic suddenly woke up from his seclusion and left without saying a word. But what is the reason for this? I haven't investigated clearly yet. The Feather Emperor and the others didn't mention the reason when they were secretly communicating. But I think it should be related to the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. Otherwise, such a big commotion wouldn't have happened. Moreover, the Feather Emperor and the others wouldn't have come here personally. They even let Lunatic come out of seclusion. Longchen's eyes flickered. The ultimate meaning of the law of life and death. Hearing this, Longchen's spirit was lifted. Why do you look so happy? Longchen frowned. One had to know. If Qin Feiyang really comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, not only would he be a great threat to the Divine Kingdom, but he would also be a great threat to them. Of course I'm happy. Because this is what I'm looking forward to. As long as he comprehended the ultimate meaning of the law of life and death, we will have the capital to contend with the Divine Kingdom. Longchen smiled. Then aren't you afraid that he will deal with you in the future? Longchen frowned. We'll talk about the future later. Longchen shook his head and smiled. He asked, have you discovered anyone from the Divine Kingdom? I really have to hand it to you. Longchen glared at Longchen angrily and nodded. Yes, and they are also notifying Ryuko and Zhang Yunshuang at this moment. What? They're moving so fast? Then, have you told Feather Emperor and the others about this? Longchen was shocked and quickly asked. No. Longchen shook his head. His face full of displeasure. You're silly. For this matter, we must help Qin Feiyang unconditionally. Give me the coordinates and I'll go there right away. You should also go to Feather Emperor and the others and tell them about the Divine Kingdom situation. Long Chen had a commanding tone that could not be disobeyed. Okay, I'll listen to you. Long Qin was furious. He gave Long Chen the coordinates, put away the Divine Sound Stone, turned around, and flew toward Feather Emperor and the others. At this moment, Lunatic had already arrived in the sky. His terrifying aura made all the creatures present tremble uncontrollably. Lunatic, we're here. Fire Lotus waved her hand. Lunatic landed beside Fire Lotus and Mermaid Princess, looked up at the sky above the Shin family village, and thought, what's going on? Qin Dage is at the critical moment of comprehending the ultimate law of life and death, so he needs your help. Fire Lotus transmitted her voice. As expected, Long Qin just happened to fly over and secretly heard this, and he immediately felt indignant in his heart. This bastard, what did he do to deserve it? To be able to comprehend the ultimate law of life and death. Lunatic heard this and said angrily, why didn't you tell me about such an important matter earlier? At first, we thought that we could control the situation, so we didn't want to disturb you, but we didn't expect it to develop to this point. Mermaid Princess sighed. What about Brother Wolf? Lunatic asked. I've also informed him and the demon ancestor. They will be here soon. Fire Lotus nodded. That's good. If the people of the Divine Kingdom really come to make trouble, with my strength alone, I really can't deal with them. Lunatic heaved a sigh of relief. As for Feather Emperor, Blood Ancestor, and Little Rabbit, no matter what happened, they couldn't do anything. This was agreed in advance, and now was no exception. Not if, but they will definitely come. At this time, Long Qin landed beside them and said secretly, you eavesdropped on our conversation? Lunatic raised his eyebrows. If I didn't eavesdrop, would I have discovered the people of the Divine Kingdom? Long Qin secretly snorted coldly. What? You've already discovered the people of the Divine Kingdom? Feather Emperor was surprised. I've already discovered them before. But as for myself, I didn't want to tell you at all, but I had no choice. My big brother is a busybody, right? Long Qin pursed his lips. Yes. Can I thank you and your sister? Hurry up and tell us, where are they? Lunatic transmitted his voice and scanned the crowd. This time, Jiang Xing and Blood Ancestor had also returned to Wang Feng's side. The three of them mixed in the crowd and were whispering to each other. It's the three of them. Long Qin secretly pointed at the three of them. Lunatic glanced at them intentionally and sneered secretly. They're courting death. Long Qin transmitted his voice. Ryuko and Zhang Yunshuang will definitely come immediately after receiving the news. Let's kill as many as we can before they arrive. This time we're thinking of the same thing. Madman chuckled and transmitted his voice. Feather Emperor, Blood Ancestor, Big Brother, when I attack later, you must take the living beings here and quickly move to another place so that they don't get hurt by accident. Okay. The three of them nodded. Then let's do it. Chapter 4004. Quick! At the same time, the Feather Emperor yelled and rushed to the top of the crowd. As he waved his hand, countless creatures below were immediately restrained by a divine power. Then, the Feather Emperor took these people and flew away without looking back. Miss Long Qin, help everyone! At the same time, after saying this, the Blood Ancestor also rushed to the right. The Little Rabbit used the instant time and went past Wang Feng and the other two, sweeping up all the creatures behind them. Long Qin was a bit dissatisfied, but she didn't hesitate and left with hundreds of thousands of creatures. What's going on? At the same time, there were millions of creatures gathered here. Seeing the lunatic suddenly go berserk and the Feather Emperor and the others suddenly sweep them away and escape into the distance, their faces were full of shock. Wang Feng and the other two were the same, because at this moment, only the lunatic, the Mermaid Princess, Fire Lotus and the three of them were left. The lunatic waved his hand and sent the Mermaid Princess to the Blood Demon Tower. He instantly turned into a giant and punched at Wang Feng and the other two. Are you crazy? Wang Feng's expression changed. Still pretending? Hurry up and show your true faces. The lunatic sneered. What? The three of them were shocked. How was it possible that he had already discovered their identities? From the beginning to the end, they hadn't revealed any flaws. He must be trying to scare them. What did you say? Why can't we understand? Jiang Chun shouted. The madman's face was full of mockery. His fist was like a giant mountain that shattered the sky as it headed towards the three of them. Damn it! Wang Feng cursed and activated the ultimate power of the law of time, and slashed at the lunatic's fist. Clang! With a loud sound, the long sword formed by the ultimate power of the law of time shattered on the spot. Is this the power of the root of all evil? It's so powerful. Wang Feng's eyes trembled. Boom! Jiang Chan and Jiang Xing looked at each other, and the mark of the god race appeared between their eyebrows. Then, the ultimate profundities of the space-time law, and the devouring law instantly appeared and attacked the madman. Even Long Qin, who had mastered 3 ultimate profundities of supreme laws, did not dare to clash head-on with the God Clan's mark and 2 ultimate profundities of supreme laws. Because with the support of the God race imprint, the power of the 2 ultimate mysteries had already surpassed the limits of this level. But, Madman didn't retreat even half a step. His fist smashed towards the space-time law's ultimate profundity, causing the galaxy to crumble on the spot. The madman was also knocked back. His face was a bit pale, but he sneered and took a step forward. Accompanied by a thunderous boom, he stomped a large hole in the ground. He stabilized his body and threw another punch at the ultimate law of devouring. Rumble! The ultimate profundity of the law of devour also dissipated in the void. Madman was forced back a few steps as a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. After all, both of them had the mark of the god race. Whether it was the law of spacetime's ultimate profundity or the law of devour's ultimate profundity, their power was comparable to his. However, in the eyes of Wang Feng and Jiang Chan, the madman was simply a godlike existence. The power of one punch had actually shattered the ultimate profundity of supreme laws. Furthermore, it was the ultimate profundity enhanced by the god race imprint. The power of the root of all evil was too terrifying. The power of the god race imprint was already heaven-defying, and could raise the profundity of supreme laws by a level. But the power of the root of all evil could not only raise the profundity of supreme laws by a level, but it could also raise the madman's physical body and strength to this level. With this strength, apart from Ryuko's 3,000 incarnations, who else could be the madman's match? Rumble! At the same time, the shockwaves of the four people's battle crazily attacked the will left behind by Qin Feiyang. The people of the Shun family village had also sensed the terrifying shockwaves of the battle. Everyone's face was filled with shock. What kind of people were fighting? Who was protecting them? Could it be Gu Feng's heroic soul? Dazhuang, little Jia, go and take a look, but don't get close. Shun Mulan came back to his senses and hurriedly looked at Shun Dazhuang beside him. Okay. The two nodded and turned toward the battlefield. At the same time, the madman also noticed that the shockwaves of the battle were clashing with Qin Feiyang's will. This caused his brows to furrow involuntarily. The will Qin Feiyang left behind was clearly to protect the Chan family village, and at the same time to protect himself. Once this will was shattered by the shockwaves of the battle, the consequences would be unimaginable. Although Qin Feiyang's will was very strong, it was still a clash of supreme laws and ultimate profundities. If it continued, this will would definitely be destroyed. Don't worry. At this moment, Long Qin returned. With a wave of her hand, a 3-foot-long thin sword appeared. It was as thin as a cicada's wing and was surrounded by a holy light. This light transformed into 2 pure white wings, like a pair of angel's wings. This was her mid-level dominator weapon. Angel's sword. What are you doing? Don't forget our agreement. Seeing Long Qin take out her mid-level dominator weapon, Wang Feng and the others thought that she was going to use it to deal with them. Just you guys? You're not worthy for me to use the angel's sword. Long Qin smiled contemptuously and looked at the angel's sword. Protect the Shun family village. Clang! The divine light of the angelic sword bloomed and turned into a beam of white divine light that swept to the top of the sky. Beams of divine light poured down like a waterfall. In an instant, a 10,000-foot-long enchantment appeared and enveloped the Shun family village below. Qin Feiyang's will was also enveloped in this barrier. However, even if this barrier existed, it couldn't stop the life energy that came from all directions. It directly penetrated the barrier and gathered above the village. This bastard. What kind of monster is he? A mere will can actually ignore the barrier of the angel's sword. Longqin muttered. In the blink of an eye, the madman looked at this scene and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He looked back at Longqin and smiled. You're very cute today. As his voice fell, the madman immediately charged toward Wang Feng and the others. He didn't hold back at all. The law of destruction and the law of space and time surged out. With the support of the origin of all evil, the power was even more terrifying. The two ultimate laws charged toward Jiang Qian and Jiang Xing cute. Longqin was stunned and blushed a little. She was a little embarrassed. Don't just stand there. Quickly kill Wang Feng. The madman shouted. This woman is really easy to satisfy. Just a casual compliment and she's happy. Longqin came back to her senses and glared at the madman. The law of death, the law of time, and the law of karma were activated. At the same time, she stepped on the moment of time and instantly arrived above Wang Feng. Boom! As she waved her hand, the three ultimate laws charged toward Wang Feng with the power to destroy the world. Damn woman! Wang Feng's face sank. Although he also grasped three ultimate profundities, there was only one ultimate profundity of the strongest law. It was simply impossible for him to contend with Longqin. Decisive. A destructive aura rushed out of his body. Anyway, he left his divine soul in the divine kingdom. It didn't matter if he self-destructed. Self-destruct? Do you have no other moves besides self-destructing? The sky pride of the divine kingdom only has this much ability? Longqin sneered. What are you being arrogant for? Wang Feng roared, feeling extremely ashamed. The three ultimate laws were activated. They were the law of time, the law of metal, and the law of earth. You think you're worthy of being called a sky pride with such a temperament? Longqin's face was full of ridicule. A casual sentence had infuriated this person. What a brainless person. Boom! In an instant. When the six ultimate laws met, it was completely unstoppable. Wang Feng's three ultimate laws were annihilated on the spot. Then Longqin's three ultimate laws crashed down. With a shrill scream, Wang Feng's divine soul was destroyed. Well done. The madman looked at this scene and laughed. Shut up. Hurry up and kill them. Longqin stared at him. You're not cute at all now. The madman shook his head. He had already fought several rounds with Jiang Qian and Wang Feng. Jiang Qian and Wang Feng were already covered in wounds. Although they had the mark of the god race, the mark of all evil was stronger than the mark of the god race. Moreover, in terms of individual strength, the two added together were still inferior to Zhang Yunshuang. Even Zhang Yunshuang wasn't a match for the madman, let alone these two. Go to hell. The madman grinned and stomped down. The two screamed and turned into a pile of mud on the spot. That's too cruel. Longqin muttered. What a waste of time. However, the madman had a look of displeasure. What waste of time? Longqin was taken aback. These people resurrect each time they are killed. If this isn't a waste of time, then what is? The madman pursed his lips. Now that you mention it, it is indeed a waste of time. Longqin nodded. They are, at this time. A cry of surprise sounded. The madman and Longqin turned their heads and looked in the direction of the voice. They saw a man and a woman in the void inside the barrier. This man and woman were Shundazhuang and Shen Xiaojia. He seems to be. Shundazhuang looked at the giant standing outside in shock and exclaimed, Madman Mo? He is the legendary Madman Mo. What? Shen Xiaojia's eyes trembled as she raised her head to look at the madman in horror. Although he didn't have 3 heads and 6 arms, his body was still huge, just like a giant spirit god. And Longqin. Shundazhuang looked at Longqin again and his breathing became rapid. Why would these 2 legendary figures come to their Shun family village? You are from the Shun family village? The madman bent his waist and lowered his head. He moved closer to the barrier formed by the heavenly god sword, and sized up the 2 little ants like an elephant. Yes. We are from the Shun family village. Shundazhuang replied while trembling with fear. Even though there was a barrier between them and Qin Feiyang's will, they could still feel a great pressure coming from the madman's body. That was a godlike existence. Shun Xiaojia was even more flustered. Facing the madman's oppression, she almost suffocated. Don't be nervous. We won't hurt you. On the contrary, we are here to protect you. The madman bared his teeth and revealed a smile that he thought was very handsome. But he didn't know that this grin in the eyes of Shun Dezhuang and Shun Xiaojia was as scary as a monster. You're tuning into the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.